Thursday, October 10th. This is a meeting of the Pioneer Valley Regional School District School Committee. This meeting is being recorded by the Bernardston-Northfield Community Television for future broadcast, and it may be streamed live when available to do so. I would like the members of the school committee to take a moment, review the norms, be mindful of the expectations for the meeting and our conduct. We will begin with citizens' concerns. If there are citizens who would like to approach the table, I would ask that you.
Kristen?
Yes, go ahead.
I'd like to make a motion for the suspension of the rules for the purpose of adding an item to the agenda.
I didn't hear that.
I'd like to make a motion for the suspension of the rules for the purpose of adding an item to the agenda.
Well,
It's been
I had
seconded.
my hand up first for what I wanted to add.
Is there any discussion? Can you explain?
Yep.
The item.
The item is member concerns around norms and protocols.
Okay. Yes?
Changing any rules at the beginning of a meeting without serious discussion, I don't think is a valid request at this time. If somebody wants to make that request, it should have been done maybe at the last meeting for the meeting ahead. So maybe this can be voted on at the next meeting.
Any other discussion? Go ahead, Sharon.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think that we need to have more information and more time to think about this and talk about it a little more before we change anything.
So this is on our chart of parliamentary motions provided by MASC. It requires a second. It's not debatable. It is not amendable.
Okay. Will require a 2/3 vote if it's going to pass. So
It is,
if there's any other discussion? Go ahead, Sharon.
Well, we have our attorney representation here.
Debatable. We need to move on to discussion.
Excuse me, I'm addressing the committee, not you, so
Go ahead, Sharon.
I would like to see what our council says on that.
So, I'm sorry, were you referencing a policy?
No, it's
Were
a
you-
parliamentary.
Parliamentary.
Yeah.
Okay. And I don't have a copy of the rule, so I can't verify.
This
But
has
I'm
it in
sure.
hand.
Okay.
Yeah.
So if you can verify that that is,
Yes, I
that
can.
there's
It
nothing.
is not debatable.
Yeah.
There is appropriate discussion allowed. Go ahead, Mike.
Just like to ask what rules we're going to follow.
So are we in discussion?
Are we going to vote first?
No,
No,
we discussed the
This
motion.
is still in discussion. David?
Kristen, I wonder if you got my letter dated October 1st with essentially 6 agenda items, of which only the 6th is on this agenda? Did you receive my letter?
So is this part of what you and Sue are going to discuss, or is this?
I have no idea. I've
on
not
top
conferred
of-
with Sue. It just seems germane that I asked for a discussion of how things get on the agenda and a number of other things, and it didn't end up on there. So I have not conferred with Sue. I don't really know what she's doing, but I'm happy to second the motion.
Okay, you're gonna second? So all in favor?
No, we are
No,
still
no.
discussing.
Is there any further discussion? Go ahead.
So I just would like the committee to know that the reason that I am doing this is that I have repeatedly requested that agenda items either be on the agenda or that the agenda be released in draft form so that the full school committee has input into our meeting agenda. And I have not received responses from you, Kristen. I have not received any communication regarding it. I have copies of my sent emails. And in addition to that, as a committee member, I and others have received several emails from you giving directives to the committee that feel to me like you establishing policy. without discussion with the school. And I'm very concerned about how we're operating, or how you are trying to operate us. I'm very concerned that this body voted to meet with the Warwick Education Committee twice. As a group, we voted to do that, and we set dates. And our work did not occur because those meetings were not posted. So I have additional concerns, but that's why I did this, because I tried through more typical methods to get my concerns on the agenda, and I was not communicated with. So I'm sorry to interrupt a full and important meeting, but this feels really essential. You are the servant of the committee, not the director of the committee. And I feel like there's much work that has tried to come to us, and we're not getting our work done. We didn't meet with the education committee. We haven't completed the district agreement discussion. All of our towns have moved forward with an advisory group that is going to discuss possible collaboration with Montague, and this committee has not even discussed it. And I'm just very concerned. So I raise this as a basic issue of how we do our work and our operating procedures and so my motion would be for us to have a discussion as a group about how we operate.
Michael?
Kristen, or Madam Chair, most of the stuff I would assume that you run by legal counsel when there is a question that needs to be answered, and I believe the agenda goes through legal counsel along with the superintendent. So putting the full load on you as regarding the agenda, I don't think is quite appropriate. There's three things that has to happen. The chair, the superintendent, and legal counsel, I believe, has to approve that agenda. If there's items that are requested to be put on the agenda, as any member can request, doesn't mean that it's going to be put on. I've requested stuff in the past, and sometimes it takes 2 or 3 meetings to get put on the agenda. So I'm patient, I'm willing to wait, and when the time comes, I'm sure the stuff will get put on the agenda.
Go ahead, Jeannie.
I have hesitated to send in items for the agenda only because I feel it's gonna be ignored. I said at a meeting 2 weeks ago that I think it's sad that we have not scheduled a district school committee meeting in Leiden. They're still part of our district. I've yet to see that as part of the agenda. And I think that items are sent in for the agenda and not all of them are put forward to our legal counsel. And that's what I believe has to happen, is that even if you don't agree with the item, it still needs to be run by our council and superintendent.
I've had several town officials say to me, your agenda is way too long. How do you even expect that you're going to visit all of these items on your agenda? You'll be there till the next day. So I can see where you have to be sort of choice as to what gets put on, and you have to prioritize, and I've never had a problem. I've had things that have had to wait for several meetings before they were on, and so we've been very busy the past several months with not being able to visit all the items on our agenda because of the length of time the meetings have gone on and on and on. So I'm sorry that we haven't been able to visit those items, but it's a fact. The agenda is too long.
Just as an example, and I don't have the previous minutes with me. On our agenda for one evening, closure of the Warwick School was listed twice. So therefore, that shows somebody is not clearly proofreading the agendas before we're given them. If it was there, it was like 2 sentences away from each other. Same exact thing twice.
I just want to say, the agenda for the meeting belongs to the... Yeah, the agenda for the meeting belongs to the committee, not to the superintendent or the lawyer. It's our meeting.
Okay,
Mhm.
so I'd just like to reference, in our operational procedures, page 3D2, under a school committee agenda, and it reads, "The committee chairperson and the superintendent shall collaborate in drawing up the agenda for each meeting. Closing date for each agenda for regular sessions shall be the end of the business day on the Friday immediately prior to the committee meeting date." Okay, so it is there. I'd like everyone to be aware that everything is run through legal counsel. It is done through email format. There is public record request if individuals should so choose. Kim, I know that you've been CC'd on emails
Yeah,
for
Russell-
reviewing agendas.
Yeah, Russell and myself are on those emails.
Okay, we do have lots of work to be completed. We have often discussed that meetings do go quite long. People have expressed that they do have other commitments during the day. So coming from work or your other commitments that you have and coming to a school committee meeting that begins at 7 o'clock and goes for 3 hours, people have expressed their concerns that that is counterproductive to the work that we're trying to get done. David?
In my letter, I pointed out that this district's policies, while there are 1,100 pages of purported policies on the website, and this school committee was contacted rather urgently in the past by DESE with respect to the deficiencies and our failure to be aligned with state law, state regulation. We've only gotten through the A's, according to my study of 5 years on this school committee. The B policies got a first reading. You are referencing policies that have not been accepted by the school committee through a vote. It's one of the 6 points I made. The most important point, though, and we are, through a sidewise method, having the discussion I'm looking for, we should have a discussion about our agenda at the front end of every meeting because there is so much to do. And if we went to school committee boot camp, we learned that the way that we spend our money and our budget is a reflection of our values. So is the way we spend our time. And I think to have some, I mean, I get up in the morning with too much to do and I look at it all and I figure it out. If we've been advised, don't even talk about an agenda, but the fact is we can, as school committee members, talk about what to put on an agenda, when to meet. The problem is it can devolve into discussions of why we should put this on an agenda, which is then bled over to deliberation. So that has to happen in an open meeting. But we can have discussions, if we could contain ourselves all day long about what to put on an agenda, if we could stay away from the deliberation. Since we can't stay away from the deliberation, we should have this discussion here. Part of our meeting should be the committee looking at the agenda and saying, this is important, let's move this up, let's make sure we get to it before we go brain dead. Did you or did you not get my letter?
I didn't review it as legal counsel.
Thank you.
Any other discussion,
Yeah.
Sharon?
I just want to also say that sometimes we have subcommittee meetings that we schedule before the regular meeting, like our last regular meeting. I and several of the committee members had a subcommittee meeting before that long meeting. So those of us who were at the subcommittee meeting had been at the table for like over 6 hours. That is a little oversaturating. And I would ask not to put much more on an agenda.
I know that Abby is is working diligently on our policy, as our policy subcommittee chair. She's been prioritizing. Prior to myself having been elected as policy subcommittee chair prior to Abby, the policies had not been visited in quite some time. They were out of date, and that is an area to which we need to focus on, and Abby is doing just that. But there is 1,027 pages of operational procedure and policies, many to which are out of date and need attention. There is a lot of work to be done by this committee. We have many things up in the air that need our attention. And if folks would like to discuss having bi-monthly meetings so that we are able to come together and spend shorter amount of time, multiple times a month, so we can be effective in the work that we can do, that discussion can happen. Go ahead, Sue.
So I just want you to know, I have been patient. I have a copy here from May 7th. That was the last time I saw a draft agenda for our school
I didn't hear
committee
that.
meeting. So I just want you to understand I have been patient about getting my items on the agenda. I have an example here. May 7th was the last time I saw a draft of a school committee agenda. I have not seen one since. At that time, I asked that this committee discuss the whole question of the Gil-Montague collaboration that our towns have moved forward with since May 7th. Okay, so it's not like I haven't been patient. I do think that we need to meet more often and get our work done. I have not even really touched upon the things that are most concerning to me about the directives that are coming to the committee.
We're on a different topic here now. Can we stick to one topic at a
Member
time?
concerns around norms and protocols was my item.
Okay.
I can't seem to get on the agenda. Okay? I'm not gonna wait another 6 months to ask our chair, by what authority do you deny elected officials access to their superintendent? That's
The
like,
concern about the communication is that there have been inquiries with the superintendent by means of text messaging at all hours of the evening as it pertains to items that are the responsibility of the superintendent. This was reviewed by legal counsel. School committee members are to use certain methods in communicating with the superintendent. It is public record and they should be using email, not text messages.
that's all a good discussion to have. It is inappropriate for you as the chair to tell this committee they cannot contact their superintendent.
I was advised by legal, and the email stands, and I'm happy to
So
provide
we
that.
should
and
discuss it as a committee, because
Yes.
that feels really inappropriate.
There needs to be parameters in place.
Mhm.
Our work is public work.
Mhm.
Text messaging is not appropriate. If you would like to have communication with the superintendent, the most appropriate method would be to do it through email during his work hours. We all have lives outside of the school committee, and we need to be respectful of people's times with their families and other personal obligations.
Okay, I would,
In addition, we have to be conscientious about inquiring with the superintendent around certain items. Is there any other discussion? That was, or comments? Go ahead.
I would like to say that I reached out by email to Kristen when I was unsure whether I should communicate directly with the superintendent, and she got back to me right away and said, yes, that item is fine, you can do that.
Mike,
Move the vote.
any other discussion?
Second.
Okay. All in favor?
so let's be clear on what we're voting on.
Would you like to restate your motion, Sue?
Okay. So I would like to make a motion for the suspension of the rules for the purpose of adding an item to the agenda, member concerns around norms and protocols. So that was to add an item to the agenda through an alternate method.
All in favor? Okay. And did you?
Yeah,
vote?
no, I didn't.
opposed? So it was 6 and 6, is that correct?
Yep.
6 in favor, 6 opposed. And the motion?
Fails.
Yep, that's a fail. It's a 2/3 requirement for that particular parliamentary procedure.
Kristen?
Yes, Sharon?
I have a request to move an item up on the agenda, and the item is old business, which is the discussion and vote on intermunicipal agreement for the Leiden school closure monies. And the town of Leiden has always, at every town meeting where we have,
I'll second that motion, then maybe she'll let you discuss it.
all right,
Sorry, I just dropped my pen.
here.
You're gonna crawl under the table.
Thank you so much. Thank you very much. All right,
It's been seconded.
okay. All right, any discussion?
I just wanted to say that at every town meeting we've had, any school official that has been present to present has always, we've moved the agenda way ahead of all the other business so that we didn't hold them captured till the whole meeting was over. So that's why I'm asking for this. The last meeting, they were held here to the very end of the meeting, and we never did get to do anything with it. So I ask that it be placed up on agenda number 3, or item number 3.
Okay, any other discussion? All in favor of moving that to agenda item number 3? Yes.
Yep.
Okay, so we'll put it after the superintendent's report, if that's okay?
Fine.
She said number 3.
Number 3, yeah.
Yeah, she said to move this one to number 3, which
Right.
would make the superintendent's report number 4.
It's fine.
I'm just going by the words that were said, Sharon. You said, please move it to number 3.
Okay, we'll begin with citizens' comments. I would kindly ask that we'll use a total of 20 minutes in total for citizens' comments. If you please approach the table, state your name and where you're from, and each individual can have 3 minutes, please.
Hi, I'm Karen Browning.
Yell, Karen, pretend you're in a classroom.
Hello, hello. Hello, okay, it's on. My name is Karen Browning. I am a teacher at Pioneer Valley Regional School. I'm just going to read a statement on behalf of the Pbr Ea. We, the Pbr Ea, were quite surprised to read in the recorder on 9/25/19 that our recent budget shortfall, roughly of $650,000, was due in part to, I quote, purchases made without appropriate filing of purchase orders, leading teachers to believe there was excess money in the budget and that they could order supplies, subsequently leading to excess spending, end quote. We would like to respectfully request the exact amount of teacher overspending that led to this shortfall, as teachers, even having access to purchase orders without administrative approval, is not a practice that anyone on the teaching staff is familiar with. This practice is very disturbing and has caused great concern to our membership. In addition, we would like to further clarify facts that appeared in this article. 17 teachers, many veterans, did indeed leave the district last year, and only 3 of which were due to retirement. This fact continues to concern us. Losing experienced teachers who were invested in the PVRSD does not seem like something to list as an accomplishment. Thank you for your time and attention to this matter, PVR Ea members. Thank you.
Thank you.
Do you want a copy of this? Yes, please, if you have a copy. Thank you very much.
Good evening, Denise Andrews, Orange, Mass., and a former state rep of the 2nd Franklin in Greenfield. Thank you first for your service on education. Without it, we don't have a society that works. I'm here to support personally you ask for your support of the Horace Mann 2 proposal. We know in this Commonwealth that we are underfunded grossly. We're having declining enrollments. We have changing models with technology and alternative options from homeschool to virtual schools. Every town is challenged with how to make a new formula work for their kids and educate them. I think Warwick has the opportunity to not only innovate for the community here in the school district, but for the entire Commonwealth. This would be the first Horace Mann 2 school, the Warwick Discovery School. Innovation happens most of the time in smaller places, both in corporations and in communities. And I really hope as a leadership team that you will support this discovery process of a new model, not only for Warwick, the Pioneer Valley Regional School, but for the Commonwealth. We know we have to have excellent education and solid financials, and we are well underfunded in being able to do that, and we're going to have to come up with new innovation, which I've seen a bit of the work of the committee, and I'm very, very intrigued and impressed and willing to invest in my time and energy to help see if that innovation solution can actually bring a better future. So please support their request so that we can have a thriving and sustainable future, not only in Warwick, but in the Commonwealth. Thank you.
Thank you.
Somebody with a Toyota RAV4, it's parked out here on the corner, has their headlights on.
Clyde Perkins, Warwick. I am here to request you all to let Warwick decide Warwick's future. I believe that they are the ones that should be doing this and not be imposed by other people. I'm asking you to move forward in an expeditious manner, timing, so that the process can be done in requirements of the state, that you move forward and don't block it. I'm not asking you to approve it. I'm just asking you to let it go forward in a manner that it's been laid out upon to do. And as I understand it, when it gets all done, you're going to be able to look at it and see whether you approve it or not. But please do not stop it in the meantime by no action or late action. So we're asking you to please let Warwick decide Warwick's future. Don't impose your feelings on the town of Warwick. Thank you.
Thank you.
My name is Shauna Mallett. I live here in Warwick, and as you can see, I'm a mom of 3. This is Silas, and this is Liam, and this is Finnegan. I want you to look at them. They are the future of this community. They are the future of this district. This time last year, you told Warwick to think outside the box. Warwick is thinking outside the box so that they, the future, can have a school in their town. Silas, did you want to add something? Change your mind now? Okay, that's okay. I think that the Horace Mann proposal is a wonderful proposal. People have spent hours and hours and hours of their personal time working on it, and I want to ask the committee to give their full support to it so that my boys can go to school here in Warwick.
Thank you.
All right, come on, kids, it's bedtime.
My name is Jim Arvidi from Warwick. This is on a totally different subject. I was listening to your issues with the agenda, and I'd like to offer a suggestion that perhaps it might be best or better to allow all the suggestions on the agenda, and then you folks can prioritize that list at the meeting to discover what is the most important issues for you at that meeting. And I'm sure that it's possible, I think, to table the list so that you can shorten the list, got your priorities, and then go on from there. I just wanted to offer that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Julie Severance, Warwick. I've been in education now for about 35 years. Private school, public school, daycare, preschool, elementary school, haven't touched the high school stuff. At present, I work in this building as an instructional assistant. The plan, the prospectus that this committee has put together to move forward takes the best pieces of the education that children receive in this school and move it forward, innovate it, redesign it, and take the best pieces forward and enhance it in a science-based way, an arts-based way. We ask your support for this to go forward to the state. The state may say to us, no, we're not quite happy with it. But they can't do that until you as a committee have allowed it to move forward and let the state decide. Then there'll really be some work. But let the state look at it and see whether they will approve it. It's a great plan, and I hope that you will approve it. Thank you.
How's our time, Kristen? How's our time?
Be careful.
Ann Dibble, Warwick. The issue here with the Horace Mann 2 is to ask you to let us proceed with the proposal. What we need to do, if you say yes, is to work out a memorandum of understanding with the superintendent. Then it has to go to the state. So what we're asking is that you allow us to proceed to do more work so that we can have the proposal that goes to the state that your superintendent agrees with. We have to have, as part of this proposal, the memorandum of understanding, which has to be worked out with the superintendent. Just let us work this next step out, please. Thank you.
We'll take one more, citizens comment. Thank you. We'll take one more. If there are none, we'll continue with our agenda. Okay?
Good.
All right. So one thing. Review the minutes. It's been brought to my attention that there is, on page 2, the name of the food service director, Michael Honorado, there's no H in his name. O.
What line?
Kristen, where are you?
Correction on page 1. On page 1,
Yep, go ahead. Page 1. Okay.
under citizens' comments, it's Todd Dexter, not Lexler. D-E-X-T-E-R.
We're gonna use the mics.
Yep.
Yeah.
Next paragraph down is Shauna Mallett, I believe, as opposed to Sharon Mellon.
And this is S-H-A-W-N-A.
Does anyone know the correct spelling for Shauna's?
S-H-A-U-N-A.
S-H-A-U-N-A.
M-A-L-L-E-T.
M-A-L-L-E-T.
Thank you.
I guess.
Go ahead.
Should I just go? I think Tanya Gaylord was here in
person. Yeah, that was gonna be, yeah. Tanya was present. She was not attending remotely. She is, however, attending remotely this evening.
Wait a minute, but is this under the minutes section on
No,
here?
it's up
Or-
here.
Oh, it's up there, it is up
Yeah,
there.
it's right here.
It's at the beginning.
Under-
Yeah.
Never mind.
Was two.
Karen?
Hi, I know I wasn't at the last meeting, but on page 3, isn't the PVRS principal Kevin?
Kevin Burke.
Not Ken? Yep.
Kevin.
And at the bottom, under technology, in the second line, there's a word that I don't understand.
Thanks to
Thanks
E-rate
to
fund.
E-rate funds.
E-rate funds are.
Try a hyphen after the E, it'll make
Oh,
more sense.
okay. I was wondering if it was irate.
It's even more irate.
Hyphen. Thanks.
Anything, any other corrections that need to be made? None? Okay. Is there a motion to accept the minutes with the corrections discussed?
So moved.
All in favor? Or
Do you have a
discuss-
second?
I'll second.
Thank you.
All in favor? You like that, Ian? Okay. We will discuss the intermunicipal agreement.
Need a motion? Need a motion?
Hmm?
Need a motion?
Do we need a motion? No, we already did the meeting.
Thank you. No, I didn't mean that, okay.
Okay. Is there a copy of it?
Yes.
Last page.
Yeah, I don't think I have a full packet. I don't get a full packet. I don't think I have mine.
Here. I've got mine online too.
Thank you. Who else needed mine?
Stephen Moore. Okay, hold on.
Can I get a copy of this?
I have.
He doesn't have one, Jeff, that's
Yeah,
not
okay.
it. He didn't bring one?
They should all be in here.
Need one, John? Take
This
this
was
one.
the last one,
I'm not
so
important.
you must have given yours away. You got one?
Yeah, it was after
Everyone
that.
have a copy?
Yeah.
All
You have it,
committee
right?
members
Yeah.
have a copy?
I have another one.
I did not know. Thank you so much, I appreciate it.
Oh, shoot.
Oh, well, I think they go.
Thank you, and they have one for you. Okay, got it. Thank you.
Oh, okay.
Has everyone had an opportunity to review the intermunicipal agreement? Okay.
I move we approve the intermunicipal agreement with lighting.
I second that.
Okay. Discussion? None? Okay.
Have you,
Oh, go
can I
right,
be part of that discussion before you take the vote, or?
go right ahead.
My name is Jeff Knipe. I'm the chair of the Light and Select Board, and we've been working on this intergovernment agreement with the district for a few months. At our last selectmen's meeting last week, we went over the agreement here again before we sent it back off to the district here. And actually, line 2 was supposed to be taken out completely.
That item 2?
Item 2, excuse me.
About not applying, about the occupancy
Yeah.
percent.
I mean, we discussed it at our meeting, and we felt that the lease is up, the agreement is up. And one of the other board members thought that it should be taken out completely. So when we sent it back to Tanya, it was supposed to go by your legal counsel, and she called us back and said everything was all set, so it was my understanding that it was taken out.
I spoke to Russell, because Russell is the Russell Dupre is the attorney that was working on this matter, and when I saw it was on the agenda, he indicated that he reviewed it and the agreement was all set, is what he told me. So I.
So,
Go ahead, Tanya. Can everybody hear Tanya?
no.
So real quickly, when you guys sent the agreement back to me, there was language that it had been taken completely out, and then it was put in blue that it was put back in. So the blue indicated to me that you guys removed it but put it back in at your meeting. So if that's supposed to be removed, the whole understanding around that being in this is that it was a requirement of your insurance company that that language be in this intermunicipal agreement in order for you to be able to have insurance on the building that was not more expensive because you weren't occupying it at least 51%. So the copy that I got from you guys had a note that it was removed, but then it was back in the document in blue, which was added language.
Yeah, I don't know who put it back in the document.
But the one that you have in front of you is the one that was presented to me with the additions or deletions and was approved by our legal counsel. And again, I specifically remember the 51% occupation being a mandate or requirement that was communicated to me on multiple times that your insurance company needed for you to get your insurance on the building so that it was actually being vacated and used.
Yeah, you know, at this time or whatever it is, I'm not going to argue, but I'm kind of overstepping my bounds or whatever it is when the other two board members actually wanted. They're the ones that wanted it removed. But if the committee feels that it needs to stay in place or whatever it is, I'd like to move forward and if there's no other changes, to agree on it.
So I have, in my notes from our August 8th meeting, you saying that Leiden had to occupy 31% for the insurance to not go up.
Right, we had to occupy 31% of the square footage of the building.
Right.
For the insurance not to increase.
So when did that go up to 51%?
That 51% figure was something I think that,
Maybe Tanya can answer that.
Tanya, can you speak to that?
I have an email correspondences from Michelle Russo specifically from MIAA, which is Life Insurance Company. Because they sent me their policy requirements and stuff directly and asked for that language to be put in.
yeah, I don't think it's gonna hurt us either way. I mean,
Yeah, I don't
it doesn't
either.
say that we can't occupy 61%. I mean, you know, it just, the minimum of 51%, no less. So I think we could move forward with it.
Okay.
Ready for a vote then?
Is there any?
I don't understand why it needs to be there from Pioneer's perspective. I understand.
Well, it doesn't from Pioneer's perspective, I would think, because the lease agreement is up. But originally, from our insurance, we were gonna have to show some sort of proof that
Well, my
the
point is,
building
if
was
the board
being
wants it out,
occupied.
and I'd be happy to strike it.
No, our attorney
right-
says
right
not
here
to.
and now,
You know,
'cause it has no
you know, at this
bearing on
time, I don't
Pioneer.
wanna hold it up any longer because we're moving forward with putting the building back into operation. And we need to document.
Sharon, go ahead.
I'm in favor of the original document to leave number 2 in with the 51% because it's been approved by our legal counsel, and that's what we pay him for, so.
Okay. Any other discussion? Okay, so the motion on the floor, you could please repeat it, Sharon? Or maybe you made the motion.
I moved it.
I'm sorry?
It was to accept it as written.
Okay.
It
And
was
there
seconded by
second.
Karen O'Neill.
Yeah, I think
Okay.
Karen's, yeah.
All right. All in favor of accepting the document as written? Okay. Any opposed? None? Okay.
Do you want to sign it tonight, or?
Yes, I'll do it.
All right. The other, I know you're busy, but I just want to say that I hope the committee would reconsider whatever it is, or come back to Leiden, once a year, whatever it is, for a meeting, or whatever it is. We're going to have the school, or the old school, available for, where you could have a meeting very easily, or you could use the town hall. And we're still part of the district, so I would hope the school committee would consider that.
Thank you, Jeff.
I think we will, yeah.
I think that we can definitely discuss that. I don't think there will be any opposition. We appreciate you offering that to us, and you are a crucial part of our district, and we should continue to meet in various locations like we have, despite the school not being here.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay,
You want me to sign yours, or?
you know, I just wrote on mine, so.
Here.
I got a blank, yeah.
Got
Is there a
we
clean
got-
one?
We got a fresh
Is there a clean
copy.
one right here?
We've,
Can I have a fresh copy,
Yeah.
please?
Jeff, oh.
Go ahead.
So I wanted to talk about our, can you hear me? Our MCAS scores and accountability to the state. MCAS scores show Pioneer Valley Regional Schools moving in the right direction, is making great strides toward meeting our DESI required improvement targets. In 2018, PVRS was partially meeting targets with an annual rating of 42%. In 2019, PVRS made substantial progress towards targets with an annual rating of 77%. This places PVRS at a 63% cumulative criterion reference target. And I included, and I'll put this on our website, some charts that you have at the school committee. It gives a snapshot of us and some of the other local high schools, the first packet that's stapled there. And if you look at the highlighted sections, our 10th grade ELA score is 79 all the way to the right, and our math is 71. And then I've highlighted some of the other schools in general, Turner's Falls, Frontier, Amherst, Northampton. Just give a picture of how we're doing in comparison to other schools around Western Mass. And we are either at or above most other schools in Western Mass. So again, this goes back to our teaching staff, the students, the families, and all the support they get in the schools, that we are really doing an outstanding job in all of our schools. So really should be commended. The second chart, I just took a snapshot of like other area schools that have grades 7 through 12 as ours, such as ours. And you can see by the percentages and the scores that, again, we are above most, or on par with the top schools around this area. On the back, there's a little definition that kind of breaks down what some of these things mean, but I'll just continue here. You can just take a look at that while I'm,
I didn't see, was Turner's Falls on here?
I don't know, I did it on the first one, I think. I just took a, like here.
Yeah.
on the first.
No, I meant, yeah.
Yeah.
Trying to make a point. Yeah.
In grades 7 and 8 in 2019, PVRS scores increased in both science and ELA as compared to 2018. In high school, PVRS gained points in all tested subjects. Our lowest performing students scored 11 out of 12 total possible achievement points, which is an increase from 5 out of 12 in 2018. Overall, both the middle and high school made great strides last year. The middle school percentage of possible points per grade span increased from 42% to 61%, and the high school percentage of possible points per grade span increased from 32% to 89%. These percentages are weighted and added together to provide us with a 35% increase to a 2019 annual criterion reference target of 77%, which is very high. Warwick Community School also falls into the rating of not requiring assistance or intervention. There's 2 ratings, so this is very good. Meeting expectations in both ELA and mathematics. Warwick students exceeded their typical growth in ELA and made typical growth in math. In 2019, 67% of students are meeting or exceeding expectations in ELA, and 59% are meeting or exceeding expectations in math. In 2018, Warwick was only partially meeting targets, with 50% of students meeting or exceeding expectations in ELA, and 64% of students meeting or exceeding expectations in math. Bernardston Elementary School is rated also as not requiring assistance or intervention. The reason being that they received this rating, they have continued to make substantial progress towards targets. Bernardston is meeting expectations in both ELA and math. In fact, Bernardston students exceeded their typical growth in math. In grade 3, scores in both ELA and math reflect an increase of students who are partially meeting expectations and meeting expectations. And 4th grade ELA scores also increased as more students move from partially meeting expectations to exceeding expectations. In math, while more students' scores reflect not meeting expectations, the amount of students meeting expectations increased. In 5th grade science, the amount of proficient scores has continued to increase, as they have for the prior 2 years. Over 50% of the class partially met expectations, and over 40% met expectations and or exceeded expectations. 2019 5th grade ELA and math scores reflect 70% of the students scored at the partially meeting expectations level, and which is an increase since 2017. While there has been an increase of students who are exceeding expectations, there's also been a decline of students meeting expectations in that area. A consistent increase was noted within 6th grade math in ELA from 2017 to 2019. And Northfield Elementary School has exceeded the targets for growth set by the state. In 2018, Northfield Elementary School was classified as partially meeting targets. In 2019, Northfield Elementary School has exceeded the targets and is now meeting or exceeding targets, and the progress toward improvement targets have increased from 69% to 84%. The 84% represents a cumulative criterion reference target percentage for 2018, which was 69%, and 2019, which was 94%. In looking at achievement levels overall for grades 3 through 6, Northfield Elementary has seen an increase in the percentage of students who are meeting or exceeding expectations in all 3 tested subject areas. ELA 60%, math 55%, and science, technology, and engineering 57%. Northfield Elementary School scored above state average in all 3 areas as well, which is an improvement from last year. Additionally, Northfield Elementary School is seeing a decrease in the number of students who are not meeting expectations, which is the lowest achievement level. Kind of a lot of detail. There's charts that can give you a breakdown just looking at Pioneer, especially the 10th grade. And again, I just want to, I'm so proud of this district and the staff and the students for these incredible scores and the gains they've made from last year to this year. It's really a testament to our teachers, our staff, the students themselves, and the families that support those students, and really all our community members for providing them with the resources they need to achieve such high levels. So we should be very proud as a district. We're one of the highest scoring districts anywhere at all levels. So I want to congratulate the students and the staff for doing such an amazing job.
I would. Good job.
And the second part, sorry.
Can we request a packet?
Yes, yeah. Actually, yeah, I want to. I'd like to ask, as part of my superintendent's report, the Northfield and Warwick Energy Committee to come up, and they're going to do a brief presentation about some of the tremendous work they've been doing in our schools.
I really appreciate some time to catch people up about what we have been doing through the Warwick and Northfield Energy Committees. You may remember, those of you who were on the committee before, we went after a Green Communities grant from Massachusetts Department of Energy Resources, and we got an unusual amount of money for towns our size. We got $500,000 between the two communities, and we've been very, very busy doing a lot of work over the last year, and we want to catch you up on what that work has been and what the outcome of it we hope to be.
But also, we're going to be applying again in March for the Green Communities Grant, and we're beginning a planning process, looking at our data, collecting audits, and working with consultants. So wanted to just loop you in as well. We're going to try to be very mindful of our time here and do this as concisely as we can. We recognize you have a lot on your agenda, and we're hoping maybe somebody could turn some of the lights down if that's possible so people can see the presentation. I want to just introduce us. I'm Susan O'Connor. I'm the chair of the Northfield Energy Committee. Sitting behind me is Janice Krakowski, who is the chair of the Warwick Energy and Building Committee. This was a collaborative effort. To my left is Andrew Vernon, who's going to sort of do the Northfield presentation, and to my right is Jim Toth, who couldn't have done the work without him, was our clerk of the works, and managed all the daily on-the-ground work with contractors. So, Andrew.
Okay, this, as Susan said, this was originally put together for a Northfield-specific presentation, but there are lots of things we've done to the schools that could be done elsewhere, and Warwick will contribute with progress they made here, too. So the Green Communities, I'm going to try to summarize some of this. The Green Communities grants are every 2 years, and you can see 240 towns of Massachusetts get these. You set goals to reduce your energy by 20%, and this is in all municipal buildings and even your vehicle fleets as well. But right now, in Northfield, the first grants focused on the libraries and town halls. I'm going to kind of blow through these slides because this is a school committee meeting after all. But this time, for this last grant, we focused on the schools, and there's plenty to be done. I think it's really important, or we think it's really important to upgrade the infrastructure of the schools, and you can save a lot of money, which is also a really great bonus. So $250,000 for this section, just the Northfield section. And we teamed up with Warwick for work at PVRS. And the funding pays for also advice from numerous places, including the FERCog. And here's a total slide. It's about $80,000 combined energy savings for the schools. And that translates to other things too, 145.6 tons of CO2 yearly, or 13,000 gallons of oil. And so there's different ways to frame this savings, and it's all good. An extensive amount of people were involved in this, including PVRSD personnel, and we thank the superintendent for including us in the report for that reason. Select boards, town admins, contractors. We reached out to UMass Clean Energy Extension and the Department of Energy Resources for the state. So let's, these are actually some of the projects. If you've been to PVRS, or if you're going to go to basketball games this winter, it should be a little warmer in there. It used to be pretty drafty. But you can see most of this work was done in the gym. An annual savings of $14,800. Yeah, it's pretty good for a few days' work. So they sealed along the ceilings. Many of you folks may have done this kind of thing in your house before. So ceiling to wall joints and roof to wall joints. They also went up on the roof. There's 54 rooftop vents. That's an image of some contractor's feet over there, so you get a sense of the size. Otherwise, you might think it's really huge, but it's, you know, sealing 54 of these things was quite a, you know, saves quite a bit. If you imagine all those gaps all in one big hole, it's like just a hole in your roof with leakage.
And probably 5 or 6 of them weren't working at all. They found belts and things that were missing, so that was part of the repair work.
So the vents were upgraded. Good. So door sealing as well. 34 exterior doors sealed with various kinds of weather stripping. You might have noticed it's a little, the doors are a little tighter if you go in and out of the high school. It's true at the elementary school, they have to pull them shut now, so teachers have had to remind themselves to do that when they go outside to the playground. And
all in all, including Warwick's share, so they contributed to these particular transformers, and I believe there were
14 replaced by 6.
14 replaced by 6 new transformers, and
Wow.
I think this was part of your report.
Yeah, I actually took this picture.
Yeah, and I think I borrowed this from
No,
Ella's
it's all good.
report. She did a science project on this and investigated all the different kinds of ways to save energy.
The transformers were actually the lowest hanging fruit of the whole thing. I think it's like a 2-year payback. There was incredible utility incentives to do that.
And these are things that people don't see so much, but they're often back rooms. But at the high school, $66,000 worth of savings. That's annual. So at the Northfield Elementary, and there was quite a bit to do here. You can see the extent of the projects. It goes through the whole building. This is an aerial view. Details to follow. Again, doors and windows, 24 exterior doors. Annual savings of $4,500. A little tiny gym fan that does a whole lot of work. It's a destratification fan. It just it keeps the hot air from sitting up by the ceiling and circulates it back down to where the people are. And you can see the payback to that. If you figure out payback, it's only, all of these projects were under 3 years payback.
Just to point out with this one, since we won't get to it later, there's 4 of these installed at PVRS as part of Warwick's piece of it as well.
Our attics in the elementary school were, I went up and poked around in some of them. We found documents from the 1940s up there in boxes. That was kind of cool. But you can see this one was very thin on the insulation. So they went through this south attic pretty quickly. The central attic is fairly modern, but they did put in these soffit vents to keep the air flowing up there, to keep the cold space cold, and sealed around the edges, and built walkways. And the third attic was, this is where the Northfield stores all their stuff, like chairs in case there's a large movement of children into the area.
Misbehaving.
Yeah, and so we had to kind of work around.
This is being recorded as a reminder.
They closed off a lot of old vents, and like these had been unused for probably a couple of decades, and closed off a lot of old vents, put in some new ones just to keep the air flowing, sealed the doors, and this is over here on this side is an automatic damper for depressurization so that the moisture doesn't gather in the bricks. And then the insulation, instead of having to dig up all the floorboards upstairs, they came from underneath, and we used this sprayed material that we checked in on the safety of it. The whole project came in under $100,000 and saves $30,000 a year almost. So that was pretty worth it. And people have noticed already the comfort level in the building has changed. Not only warmer in the winter, but it's going to be cooler in the summer as well. Okay, so again, the summary slide, about almost $80,000 of savings between the two schools. And I don't have Warwick's particulars on this one because it was a Northfield Energy show. So do you want to put those in now?
I don't have the specifics.
Okay.
For energy use, no, but I will buy it in a month.
Okay. So this slide just shows you one of the sites we use. You can look at your towns, this would be per town, but you could look at all the municipal buildings. You can look at the different, there's vehicle fleets here, propane, diesel, gasoline along the edge here. And you can see drops over the years in various spots. So you can look at this data and try to make decisions for the future, which we're thinking about because the grant applications are going to be written this winter. So here are some things. Upgrading to LED lights, that's one that many towns are doing. It's, again, what they call low-hanging fruit. If you have a good wiring system and everything, you switch the bulbs, and it's quite a bit of savings. We are thinking about air source heat pumps at the elementary school. We think that we could maybe break it into smaller jobs over several years and do parts of the building. That's something we're thinking about and looking at. And also, we're looking into our vehicle fleets. has less to do with the school, but more to do with the town. So this has to do with the schools. This is another pathway we're taking for funds. This is run by Eversource, and they do, basically, Eversource foots the bill for this. Improvements come in, for instance, new LED bulbs, and the town's electric bill finances are then shifted toward that loan until it's paid off. That's in a nutshell what happens, but there's a little more complicated than that. But we're looking now at high-performance lights, changing some spray valves and aerators, occupancy sensors that turn lights on and off when rooms aren't being used. And there's some potential savings down below. You can see the paybacks are less than 2 years each. At the elementary school in Northfield, could be potentially $12,500 of savings. And at PVRS, where there's a lot of lights, could be $23,000. So these are things we're working on. Then they could happen relatively quickly, depending. Let's see. The rest of this does not pertain to the schools so much, so do you want to add?
I just want to say two things about the future. One is that we do want the lighting project that would end up saving about $35,000 for the school district. We would like some feedback from the school, at least through John and maybe through the buildings committee. They would like to do the work during Christmas break, so that they're working first shift and not when the kids are in the building. So we're on a fairly fast turnaround for that. We're voting on it at a meeting on Tuesday night. So looking for some guidance, John, and how to move forward, and really excited that we could do this extra work that isn't under green communities, which frees us up to do some bigger projects really for the next Green Communities grant. But we will be back through, perhaps to the Buildings Committee, to share out our draft plan so that people can have some input on that plan. And now I'd just like to give Jim a couple of minutes to talk about the Warwick effort.
Thank you, Susan. I guess we're done with the slides. Turn on the lights if you want to wake people up over there. Sue? Jim, thank you.
She's taking a nap.
There we go. Thank you. So as cooperative effort, both towns participated at PVRS. In addition to the transformers and the destratification fans that were put in at PVRS, there were also motor and drive work done there for the heating system. So these would be boiler circulator motors and the computerized drives to both control the smaller motors, which are 1.5 horsepower motors, as well as some 20 horsepower motors. The 20 horsepower motors were not replaced. The 1.5 horsepower motors were replaced, but new drives for everything were put in, and hopefully they're going to work. We're just getting into the heating system right now. We've done the same thing here at the Warwick Community School as part of Warwick's thing, and as we found out last Friday, they weren't working. So the process is under repair right now as they're troubleshooting it. Contractor was on site yesterday. Problem has not yet been fully resolved, but I'll be still working with them to make sure that it gets done, and the nice thing about it is they don't get paid till it's working. Briefly, we prepared a report for the principal at Warwick a couple weeks ago, and it just deals with what the Warwick Building and Energy Committee's portion of the grant did for Warwick Community School itself. So there was the replacement of two 1.5 horsepower heating system motors with the new addition of energy, high efficiency drives and controls for them, and that was to the tune of $6,329. Additional heating upgrades in the amount of $51,500, which $3,000 of it is coming from the town of Warwick itself, not through Green Communities. So the town is matching
a portion of those funds as their investment and continuing investment in the school. The work involves draining and disposing of the heating system glycol, replacing it with plain water to increase performance and efficiency, relocating his heating system piping that was originally placed in unheated portions of the attic. That piping has been now placed into heated portions of the building, which then allows water to run in the pipes without the risk of freezing, hence the removal of the glycol. Draining and capping heating pipes that went into the entry vestibules. All three of the vestibules had been heated. It was determined that that is probably not necessary. If it proves problematic, we will have to revisit that issue. There should be significant savings for that action. We've repaired duct and pipe insulation in the attic. Over the 20 years of this building's history, the ducts had been hit many times by workers, or perhaps things had just fallen off. The insulation was probably missing or incomplete in over 30% of the duct work. We extended the heated portion of the attic to include 2 reheat coils that were in the unheated portion of the attic. These coils are in ducts that heat the cafeteria and the adjacent classroom. So this room here would be considerably cooler, or would have to, a lot more energy would have had to been used to heat it. Balancing the hot water and forced air systems to achieve better system performance. This is something that's kind of plagued this building from day one, and that is the one remaining thing that has yet to be completed by the contractor, and it's still on our list to get done. Weatherization work in the amount of $99,896, so virtually $100,000 of weatherization, air sealing and insulation. In the Northfield report, Northfield went to R48 for the insulation factor. Warwick had decided to up it to R60, so we have an air-sealed attic with R60, all the penetrations on heated floor, heated space below it, adjacent to it. We re-insulated the heated, we got that. We also insulated and sealed an extension to the heated portion of the attic that now incorporates some of the reheat coils. There was a lot of preparatory work to improve the attic access to the above heating and weatherization work. That itself was about $1,800 that was paid for by the town of Warwick as its own investment, and that included 37 hours of volunteer labor provided by the Warwick community to do that, mostly the Buildings and Energy Committee, as well as a local contractor, Lauren P-Train. There's still work to be done, including troubleshooting of one air handler that's been running nonstop for months, and I guess we'll conclude with that at this point. But in conclusion, we did $163,000 worth of work with 37 volunteer hours just to upgrade the shortcomings of the 20-year-old building.
Thanks, and I don't want to take time for questions, but if people have questions, I can send you my email and you could send that out. Oh, Jess, hi.
Hi, sorry, can I just make one comment?
Yeah.
So I went to the
Energy Day, September 14th.
I thank you for all the work that you've done, and I just want to comment because you're not tooting your own horn, but the people from the state who came, who reviewed the grants, had nothing but raving reviews about what was sent back to them in review, and said that what has happened through this grant is that they are learning at the state better ways from what you have done to give examples to other people all throughout the state. So I thank you so much.
Wow. I just want to say I feel like we're a little bit ahead of the curve because the USDOE next week is having a webinar on how to work on energy strategies in rural schools. So
nice work.
We're done.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
It's a great example of collaboration. Thank you.
Okay.
That's right.
Okay, I love it. I'm okay with that.
Student report.
I would love to. I just want to thank the Energy Committee. My STEAM night project was focused on the work done at PVRS, so it was really amazing to learn about all of that. So I'm also giving a brief report for Gina Johnson, who could not be here tonight. She's our AD. So I'm just updating you on game schedules for homecoming and what has been going on with our fall sports teams. So as many of you know, homecoming is Friday and Saturday. So on Friday, the boys JV and varsity soccer plays at 4, field hockey plays at 4:30, and on Saturday, girls varsity soccer is at 10 a.m. and JV and varsity are at 10, JV at 10 and varsity at 11. The numbers have, yeah, go ahead, I'm sorry.
Which Friday, a week from tomorrow?
No, as in tomorrow.
Is into the 3-day weekend?
Correct. Yes. Homecoming is right upon us, so I actually have to get home shortly and start planning the pep rally officially. So she says that the numbers in our boys soccer program is able to support 3 levels, which is amazing. I think this is the only program that is doing that so far in the fall season, which is great. Girls soccer is close to qualifying for the tournament, and field hockey is very close as well. So this is a really, really exciting thing, as the field hockey program was set to be lost in the past couple of years, and we're really glad we saved it and brought it back from the ashes, so it's very exciting. Middle school football is 4-0, and they had a great win against Narragansett last week. I apologize for that pronunciation. And so all the teams are representing Pioneer well on and off the field, so she's very excited about that. Okay, moving on to my report. As I've talked about, pep rally and homecoming are this weekend. We would love some turnout from school committee members, so we hope to see you all there. If you have any questions about times, please feel free to ask me. And then regarding the seniors and juniors' perspective on the school right now, Mr. Correa, Lucas Correa, the high school guidance counselor, has been working really, really hard to get lots of universities and colleges to come visit Pioneer. I recently went to a University of Pennsylvania meeting with a rep from University of Pennsylvania, speaking about their school and what they have to offer. And that was really a great opportunity. It's great to have them come to you and not have to seek them out in person. So that was an amazing experience. In addition, the seniors started a new fundraiser and are charging classmates and potentially teachers to paint their preferred parking spot. So you can reserve a parking spot and then get it painted by the more artistic students in my class, which is not me, but a lot of other people. And students, if you go to Pioneer, if you've been recently, you've noticed that things are much more colorful in the gray parking lot. So we're excited about that. It's a fun thing to do before the snow hits. So thank you so much. I really appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ellen.
I just want to comment on homecoming. I'm so disappointed that it's over before noon on Saturday.
Yeah, it used to be an all-day festivity, and I think with...
But in fairness, to get ready for the dance at night.
Yes,
it
it
can't
does
go
just
too
take
late.
us hours.
It can't go too late either.
Yeah, no, that is true. I remember when I was a 7th grader, I played a field hockey game at 4 or 5, and the dance was at 7, and all the freshmen were like, I can't get ready. So it does make sense.
I do, there's a lot of yummy goodies gonna be sold at homecoming weekend during the game.
Yes, that is the
And
plan.
lots of spirit wear.
I wore my pajamas. Everyone wore the pajamas this week. There were lots of PVRS pajamas worn.
Excellent.
So we're very excited about all our gear.
There was, I have to say, the new Instagram and
Yes.
social media is really a great way to highlight all of what's going on within the school.
I agree. I agree.
It was great to see, you know, the beginning of the Spirit Week with Drama Day and Character Day.
And the Student of the Months and being
Student of the
represented.
Month.
It's been really nice. So we're excited. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Okay. All right. Accounts payable. Can you hear us, Tanya?
I can.
Okay.
You can keep me facing if you want to, and then I'll just answer any questions that anybody has on the accounts payable. Let me know if you have 7 or more signatures, so I can credit the objective tomorrow.
You're gonna hold the mic closer to the computer. So you can be heard.
Does anybody have any questions on the accounts payable that they have in front of them that we talked about?
Go ahead, Sue.
So I have a few questions. It's from a document that I don't see in our packet. It's the invoice journal detail report that the committee received online.
The invoice journal detailed report that we received online.
Yeah.
we're not printing that out
Yeah.
for the meeting. There is supposed to be one hard copy that's provided at the meeting if the school committee was not able to review it prior to the meeting with the online version.
Yeah, I just wonder about asking my questions on a document people aren't holding. Should I just go ahead? I don't need that. I have my notes.
Thank you.
Should I just go ahead with my questions, Tanya?
Are you prepared for questions, Tanya?
Yes, so I do have the full accounts payable. Give me just a second to pull that up because I do have it electronically. I did not print 88 pages. But Sue, if you want to go ahead and ask
Okay.
a question.
I have a quick, I'll be really quick. Page 12. It looks like the PVRS electric bill, but it says FY18. Is that a mistake?
Can you hear her, Tanya?
Sort of. What page?
Page 12.
Okay. Let me just go down to page 12.
The electric is listed as FY18.
$8,318.
It may just be a comment that Brenda had in there electronically for that PO for some reason. I can ask her to update that to FY20. Yeah, I think it's just something with that account, so I'll ask her to update her comments on that. But we are not paying prior year bills, I can promise you.
Okay, that was the confusion there. Okay, page 18.
Page 18.
Miscellaneous math supplies, $4,400.
Miscellaneous math supplies.
So it's not necessarily miscellaneous, that is the Northfield's math supply purchase for the year. So it's a huge order that goes through Hewitt and Mifflin, or however you pronounce the name of the company, for their math supplies for the year. So it's all the workbooks that the kids use and all of the stuff that follows their curriculum for the year. It's done as a lump sum order.
Right, so it looks like there's about almost $10,000 in supplies for a new
Right,
math
so
curriculum.
You're gonna see that in your September and October warrants, because that's when all of our purchases for the school year are done at once. They're done over the summer, and then once they're approved by the schools with the purchase order that they've actually received everything on their invoices, they send those over to Brenda with an okay to pay. So some of these items were on the September warrant, and some of them that are on this warrant as well. None of the supply lines are overspent, so.
No, I don't have a concern about that.
You know, the bulk of the supplies are purchased at the beginning of the year, or
trying to
over
ask
the
my
summer,
question.
the orders are placed for the school year, so that the teachers have everything in place to provide to the kids for the
Right.
entire year, and it's not done piecemeal throughout the
So,
year.
so my question is just, it's a big purchase for a new big piece of curriculum. Did C&P not need to meet, or it's just kind of a funny way to find out about such a big initiative? I'm just curious.
So there are a lot of discussions going on about curriculum, but there was a huge conversation about curriculum at the end of the year with administration last year, as well as the tech subscriptions that go along with those, and everything that's being ordered or in place for this year is following the current curriculum. But I do know that there's discussions right now, between Ariel, John, and the administration on things that need to be looked at. That's one of the things that I was actually looking at and analyzing some of the areas that we saved this year. So when Ariel comes to John and I with a cost for implementing some new things, we can do a transfer vote from some of the lines that are going to be underspent to help support those new curriculum initiatives.
Yeah, all great. I mean, we haven't had a curriculum coordinator for a long time. I just might be good to have C&P meet and get an
We'll be
update.
able to budget those things better next year, but it's kind of hard to put a budget together for curriculum when the coordinator wasn't in place when the budget was happening. So we're going to do everything we can this year, and it will be part of the free program that John and her spoke of at the last school committee meeting.
Tanya, hold on 1 second. I'm going to take a comment from Karen.
Yeah, I just wanted to say that I met informally with Ariel recently, ran into her in the building, and reminded her that we'd be the point people, the subcommittee on curriculum and personnel. And she said she was understandably getting her feet on the ground right now, and that we would be working together soon.
Great. Yeah, page 74.
All right, let me go back to that document, sorry. Okay.
So the Wi-Fi upgrade, 23,696?
So this is part of the capital project.
Okay.
That 60% is funded through the E-rate program, and the other 40% is the 24,000 that's being paid through the town. It is all expensed to the school building project, and you will receive a reimbursement check accordingly when the E-rate paperwork is filed by the new tech coordinator.
Great, thank you.
You're welcome.
I have one more question.
I just have a question prompted by Sue's question. So if the math line item that's $10,000, if the notation is a new math curriculum? Or is that
It's
Tanya's notion
supplies,
that it
Looks
could
like
be?
supplies for math expressions.
There's different schools that are included in that amount that she was speaking of. It wasn't just one school that has $10,000 for math.
44,401 and 4,977 in another.
Yeah. Okay, guess I thought I heard a new math curriculum
That's what
spoken.
That's what I heard.
Okay.
That's what I'm wondering.
So is it a?
Oh, maybe it was
Because
your.
Oh.
it's such a big expense.
I see, okay.
Yeah.
All right. Any other questions? No? None? Okay.
Are we going to do the expense report?
Moving on to the regular financial reports.
Can I just ask one question about the school committee expenditure report, Tanya?
Yes, I'm not quite there yet.
Oh, okay, I thought you were going to skip it, that's okay.
Go through the reports and then take questions as I get to those specific reports.
Sure.
Is that all right?
Yeah.
Okay, so the first report that I want to go over really quickly, some of the reports, unfortunately, I wasn't able to address at the last meeting because we were there till 11 o'clock, and some of the financial items got passed over. But with our history, I think it's really important that I communicate some of the items and be transparent, because that hadn't been done in the past. So if you could pull out the report that says FY19 fund balance report, it has a list of funds on the left-hand side, their names, the balance at the end of FY19, the 18 balance, and the change from 18 to 19.
My fund balance, FY19 fund balance. Yeah.
Okay, got it, Tanya.
Okay, so I think it's really important for you guys to see this because last year when everything was kind of in disarray, there were conversations about having hundreds of funds and so forth and so on, and I expressed that we had about 22 or so. So this kind of gives you the lay of the land. We have 10 funds that we use in the normal course of business. There's some other CDs and scholarship funds out there as well. But for the most part, we use about 10 of these, and as you can see, there's about 20 or so total, and that includes all of our grant funds that sometimes roll over to the next year and some are closed out at the end of the year. So I'm not going to go through every number here. If anyone has a specific question related to a specific fund, I would entertain those questions. I do want to say that there is one fund that we have. It's the Audrey Phelps Education. Those funds are in a CD, and I'm working on researching to find out what that fund was established for so that we can possibly spend those funds because they haven't been touched since I've been in the district since last January.
Which one was that? The Audrey
Give you a
Phelps?
point person.
Awesome. If you could just email it to me, that would be great. Any specific questions on the changes? I didn't include the deficit borrowing that covered deficits in the change because it's not a true fair change in our fund balance. That was to get us back to zero in those three funds that addressed.
Okay, David, go ahead.
My question has to do with the fund balance report and specifically the headings. So, when I look at a fund balance, I like to see a beginning balance. So is the FY18 balance the ending balance of FY18?
I'm sorry. So the column that says balance is the FY19 ending balance. I apologize, I didn't put that FY19 in there. So this is basically a comparison between where we ended in FY19 versus where we came from in FY18.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Regarding the fund balance report? None? Okay, we'll get there, Tanya.
Perfect. So the next two reports are the expenditure by category and expenditure by school report. In the past, you guys have gotten just a report by category because this is how we are now voting the budget. But because a lot of the administrators in the school committee were used to seeing the report in the past by school, I felt that it was important to also show this by school. And I also put in that per pupil column that's something that everyone's been asking me for, and I did get some emails requesting it, and I did provide this at the last meeting. I've done some additional work to equitably break out the transportation for the buses that go to the schools, some of the shared items that specifically belong to the elementary or specifically belong to the high school have been equitably assigned to the number of students in those schools. If anybody has any specific questions on either of those reports, I'd be happy to answer them, or you can certainly email me as well.
I have a question. Just about the format of it. So I'm looking at the expenditure report by school.
Yep.
On the far right where it says per pupil.
Yep.
So the first column, well, the first line is central office district-wide admin.
Right.
$6,193.97.
So that includes everything in central office. That includes all our health insurance and everything that used to be lumped into the central office that it was in the past. That has essentially been spread out amongst all the kids in the district. But it's just how I calculated those columns for.
Right. So my question would be the numbers below that talk about per school. So is that plus the 6,000?
Include all of the sped, shared, and central office lines equitably allocated to those specific schools, as well as the per buses, which I've done a detailed calculation below for as well.
Okay, so where you've separated out central office and sped, the numbers in bold for each school do include those.
Yes, so the
Okay.
numbers in bold are the final number per school. It's just the sped and central office specifically were able to be split out equitably across the 704 students, but the shared was a calculation that was broken out accordingly because there's items in that shared line that are attributable to just the high school and some just for the elementary. So I went and broke those down and split those amongst the elementary or just the high school accordingly.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other questions? Okay. No more questions on those two documents, Tanya?
So I'll move on to the expenditure for the school committee report. I do want to mention, and I think it was in the email that I sent out, that in the past, when this has gone out, all the negatives have disappeared for the votes for the transfers that have been in front of you. What I did this evening, because I felt like there was some question or concerns about some of the transfers that were brought forward, is the negatives are in this report so that you can validate the transfers that I have requested and also see that the funds are available in the lines that I'm requesting those transfers from.
Okay, you ready for my quick question on that? Okay. First of all, I wanted to say it was good for me to see that the professional dues and subscriptions for principals were being used. That made me feel good. And I just was wondering if there's a way to get the Warwick principal an allocation. I see it's not provided for in the Warwick report. It's $489, and she's working hard, and I would like to see her get some dues and subscriptions.
What are we looking to be provided for?
On the Warwick
This isn't the
page,
appropriate place for that, is it?
the dues and subscriptions looks like it hasn't been allocated for.
Right, so if you look at the transfers that are to be voted, the items are in there.
So she will be getting that?
So you have a sheet of transfers to be
Excellent.
voted.
I didn't see that, thank you.
There is a vote in there for that $500 that was part of
Yeah.
the contractual
Excellent.
obligation that was not in the previous principal's contract.
Excellent, thank you, that's all.
Any other questions?
God, I hope not.
Okay. Tanya, do you have anything else on those documents?
So again, I just wanted to make sure that the school committee, when they're looking at these transfers to be voted, can see the funds available in those from accounts as well as the deficits in the accounts that we're transferring those money to allocate those transfers. Just again, one step in making it a little more transparent rather than doing the transfers ahead of time.
Thank you for doing that, Tanya.
And the next thing is the budget transfer votes. So if you guys could take a look, there's a sheet that has votes that need, or transfers that need to be voted, and then there's also a sheet that has two transfers that were within categories that don't require a vote. If anybody has any questions or wants clarifications on those, I'd be happy to answer that. And the reason, real quick, and I just want to put this out there because I don't want it to fly under the radar, the PRES facilities transfer amount, we reinstated a total of $11,300 to the PVRES facilities line when we amended the budget, and we were still responsible for expenses for 2 months of the year, so that's what that $3,600 is for. Because you guys did vote that in our municipal agreement, we need to pay the $11,300 to Live as well as cover the expenses that the district already incurred.
What's the amount, maintenance of buildings central? There's, 1827.
1827, I can get you the detail on that. I believe that had to do with, excuse me, testing that get done every year for like fire and stuff, but I can get you the
Well.
detail on that.
That would be nice.
Give me just a minute.
Yeah, there's a lot of that.
Does anybody else have any other questions on pulling that information for?
No? It doesn't seem to be any other questions here, Tanya.
Do you need to vote on that?
I can circle back to
Okay, that's great.
my accounting system pulled up.
You can actually just send me an email
Have that
for
open. So the last thing I have to report is the school lunch report. I did send an email to the school committee members to let them know that due to the timing of when our online payments come in for the school lunches and that report that we get, I did look back at last year's agendas and noticed that we did the August and September and November because we don't have those statements because the school committee meetings have been moved up from the fourth Thursday to the second. But I did want to circle back to the FY19 school committee report. I did convey that in July or August when we met that there was a $2,000 surplus in this fund. At that time, it was believed, or I believe, that the payroll administrator had accrued all of the summer salaries. Unfortunately, that was not true, and only the summer salaries that were actually paid over the summer had been included in that report. Okay, we did have to use the 4687 of the $50,000 that we budgeted for the school lunch subsidy, but the bulk of that came from a system error that myself and the new food service director found at the beginning of the year, which was not allowing us to get reimbursement from the state for some of our paid students. It's not a large amount, but it does equate to a couple $1,000s a month, and we're already seeing that recapture this year so far at the PVRS level. So we would have essentially been in a true black position this year if our system was working properly, but Mike has worked with pay schools and everything has been corrected and all the reporting is able to be done properly to DESE at this point. So we make that transfer from the subsidy to cover that and we started fresh in FY20. We do have an increase in participation this year already. It's up about 10% at all the schools across the district. Mike's putting a lot of good things into place and all the principals and teachers seem to be very excited about the Breakfast After the Bell program that's going to launch in November. So he will be at the next meeting and keep you posted on the operational benefits that have happened in food service as well as the financial. Does anybody have any questions about the school lunch?
Nope, doesn't appear to be.
I was just gonna ask if we could move up the student activity vote and the Greenfield Bank Cooperative, just because they are financial.
Okay.
We don't have to.
All right, we do have the budget transfers vote on our agenda.
Oh, sorry, yes.
So is there a motion on the floor?
I so move.
Second.
Okay, any discussion? All right, all in favor?
I guess that's somebody else's approval too.
And are you all set?
After 2.5 hours, I start barking.
Yeah, okay.
Give him a bone, will
That's
you?
all set, Tanya.
Awesome, sorry about the barking, I'm sitting outside trying to stay away from my dogs, but the neighbor's dog's outside.
Okay. So let's run through the subcommittee reports, please, negotiations.
Would you like to tell me what happened, because I wasn't there?
It's ongoing.
Okay.
At the request of the association, we are canceling our next meeting, but we have rescheduled it, plus,
A few others.
yes.
Okay, perfect. All right, thank you. Building and grounds,
Nothing right now.
okay. Curriculum and personnel,
Nothing that I haven't already mentioned earlier.
okay, thank you. Budget subcommittee,
I spoke with Tanya just briefly the other day. We're looking forward to putting some numbers together when budget season gets here. Things are looking good, and hopefully things progress like they have the last 8 months.
Great.
That's it.
thank you. Policy,
So we met last week and looked at user fees and gate fees and how they're used. That language will be coming to you soon. We have a little bit more work that's been requested to be done on that. And Wednesday at 5:30 in the high school library, we're going to be meeting to talk about exit interviews, and council will be there if anyone has questions about it.
perfect, thank you. And district agreement subcommittee,
We're still waiting for the state to send it back.
okay. Go ahead, Tanya.
We did receive an email back from the state with some questions and concerns about some of the items on the regional agreement, and council was copied on that, so I'm not sure where that stands right now with the superintendent and the subcommittee. If the subcommittee hasn't received that, I'd be happy to forward that email along.
Please.
We just said, like, middle of last week while I was in district for the audit, so it just came a few days ago. And there was a change in staffing at the state. Bruce Hirsch moved on to another position, so.
There was some delay there was some
Yeah,
changing
so
and
I
stuff.
contacted-
Yeah.
Yeah, I contacted them to see if they could get that moving along, and got back to us last week, so I can forward that along to, you guys, so that we can have that for review.
Perfect, thank you. Go ahead, Sue.
I just have a quick question. I'm concerned that there's no plan for superintendent evaluation and there's no school committee goals or anything going on. Is there a plan for that?
Yes, there is. We'll be discussing that soon.
Well, can we get an update? Because it's typically been a C&P subcommittee project, and I just am wondering why we aren't working on it, and it's October.
Well, it's something that I have to talk with Karen about. So I just reviewed all of the dates, so it's something I'll follow up with Karen.
So we'll be hearing about that at the next meeting?
Yes.
Great.
Okay. All right. Tanya, do you have anything else that you want to discuss?
I just have the student activity account
And the Greenfield.
corporate resolution for the bank.
Okay, all right. Under new business, we have discussion and potential vote regarding Warwick's request to become a Horace Mann charter school. And then we'll get to student activity in Greenfield Bank.
That's fine.
Okay? the school committee received several emails with documents from the Warwick Education Committee regarding the Horace Mann 2 prospectus and the work that they have been doing, as well as a 15-page document of policies that they have compiled.
Can I have an explanation why the 2 scheduled meetings were not posted and did not occur?
We were advised by legal and the overseer that we did not have the information needed in order to schedule those meetings. So we were advised by legal to not have the meetings.
So the school committee, in a majority vote, voted to hold those meetings and do business. And I think those meetings should have occurred. And if legal had concerns, we could have discussed them at the meeting. But it
after the
feels
meeting.
really wrong to me. I mean, maybe you can speak to this. The full school committee votes to meet, and the council and the chair decide it's not going to happen.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I'm unaware of that. So I came in for this meeting, and I do know that we were waiting for the prospectus. I don't know if that's why those
Yeah.
were canceled, but I wasn't a part of that discussion. That, again, you know, Russell.
Yeah, the
and
school
Ross
committee
were
didn't
speaking to.
schedule meetings if certain documents are provided. We
Yeah.
scheduled meetings to have a discussion and to do work together with a community that's done a lot of work.
And we haven't had it.
The council doesn't get to cancel school committee meetings. That makes no sense to me.
Okay. Any other discussion? Go ahead, Sharon.
Well, I think that if the information isn't present, and I don't know exactly how it was posted, but if it was posted so that we had to address or vote on a specific item and the information for that item wasn't present and furnished to us, there's no way that we could address it. So,
Okay, we can, go ahead, Karen.
Yeah, I think that was around the time that everybody learned that there was going to be a later deadline than we previously thought. And so I think that figured into any decision that was made. There was not a lot of written stuff that we had received at that point, and we had learned that the whole prospectus had a later deadline than we had earlier
That's
thought,
right.
than everyone had earlier thought.
And I think that there had been some clarification around initially the amount of pages the prospectus was
Right.
anticipated to be, and then there was a revisit to that, and it ended up being, and please correct me if I'm speaking out of turn, it was initially supposed to be about 20 pages, and then it was found that it needed to be more like 90 pages in length.
Substantially more.
Okay. Go ahead, Jeannie.
I'm very concerned that that Warwick is looking for an okay from us tonight, yet as a committee, we haven't had a chance to discuss the Horace Mann 2 option. And I personally don't feel comfortable giving an approval or disapproval for something that I haven't had chance to discuss with my committee members.
Okay.
I think this is a big injustice to the committee and also to the group from Warwick.
Go ahead, Mike.
Well, first of all, I'd like to thank Warwick for having us up the other night and to previous meetings that we've been invited to.
That's right.
Unfortunately, myself and 3 other members from the school committee were the only ones in attendance. I think we got to do a better job at learning what is being proposed. It's what they're presenting to us. It's their idea. It doesn't mean that it's the only idea. There's all of us members here that have an opinion or thoughts or base decision on facts. If we can base the decisions on facts, not emotions, I think we'll be a lot better off. Unfortunately, you know, I've got a lot of notes that I've taken, you know, from going to the meetings, reading documentation, pulling up the town of Warwick population trend and impact study from 2016. which was the first year they didn't have a kindergarten class. And, you know, we've got to do our homework. You know, I know we're all busy. It's difficult. It's difficult for the Warwick residents. I appreciate what they've done. They're fighting the fight. But that doesn't mean that their way is the only way. We have to have the discussion. We just got 2 emails, I think, yesterday or the day before, 100 and something pages, which we wouldn't have had if we had the meetings earlier. So we would have been having meetings and trying to base decisions with a lack of information. So I would like, you know, people to get the facts. You know, something as simple as the roadway going from here to Northfield. We know that that is planned to be redone next year. Should have been done 5 years ago. But we got to get the facts. And if we don't have the facts, we can't make an informed decision.
I do just want to say one thing, Jessica, I see your hand. I want to thank Tom because I had, was not able to go at the last minute to the meeting, and you were kind enough to send me the video link. So if there is anybody that was not able to attend and would like to see the video link, Tom, I believe you shared it with us, or could you reshare it with us,
I could
please?
share
You
with
did
the
send it.
reshare with the whole committee.
Yes,
But,
please.
yeah.
That way people would have the opportunity to watch that video of the public hearing, because that was very helpful.
Got it done for us, so.
So thank you very much.
And that would be great. I work those nights, so.
Yeah,
Me too.
I was held up at work, so I wasn't
Oh.
able to go, but.
I had a wedding, not mine.
Yes.
Life happens.
So I agree with Mike that we all need to do our work to get the information. I think part of that work was voting to have the committee come and present it to us in the form that it was at that point, which would have been as much information as everyone had, and probably would have at least got us on the road to understanding what we were moving along with. Clearly, there's more information now. I don't feel like we were, maybe some people were a part of that decision-making process that happened about not having the vote or the second vote, not the vote, the meetings. But I agree that I'm concerned that there was nothing else that came along to say, what are we doing with this also? How will we move forward from here about what we're doing with this process?
So, Tom, please correct me if I'm speaking incorrectly. The documents that you have sent to the committee as a whole that include the 100 pages, the 15-page policy, and the
55 pages.
preliminary prospectus, is that the completion of the documents that the committee has developed? Is that
That's-
everything?
That's everything we have to this point. We continue to work on improving things in preparation for submitting it to the state, assuming the committee supports that. But
But
that's why I think
that's
they're marked
everything.
as draft.
Those are drafts, but that is everything for review.
Yes.
Here.
Go ahead, Jean.
And that is, everything that you have presented to us is what the state has suggested that you put out to us for review and a decision? Or is there more?
The state has an outline for the
Yes,
prospectus.
I know
We
that.
followed that
Okay.
and supplied the materials related to the outline. I'm not sure if I'm answering your question.
There's no more to this process that you have to present to us that the state has told you you need to present?
There are one or two
Thank you,
items that
that's
we
what I
have
thought, yeah.
not completed.
Okay.
That we can get to you on the outline.
Did I see a hand down here? No. David, did you have any? No. Okay. Mike?
I think if you go on the state website and pull up the Horace Mann 2 new application, it clearly states what is required, and then you can compare it to what we've received. Now, there was a big difference from what I saw 4 weeks ago compared to what was on the state's new application site for a conversion school. That was one of my main concerns. So, as the information comes in, of course, they're on a timeline. But that doesn't mean we rush into something
right.
and make a decision without all the facts. And we need to remind ourselves, we're basing the decision on facts, not emotions.
The other thing that I want to put out there is that these documents have also been shared with our overseer, Rick Kingsley, as well as our legal counsel. So they are also reviewing everything that you have sent thus far.
Okay.
Go ahead, Adam.
So one of the things that I would like to respectfully remind the committee is that this is just your approval for us to submit it to the state. So with that, you're still going to have 2 more months to do a final vote on this. And the other thing that's significant with this is you're putting this application in DESI's hands. So DESI's got a team of people who are paid to review this and go through with a fine-tooth comb. And it really puts it in their hands and not of yours to say, the school committee let it go forward, and DESI said yes or no. And we're putting more of the responsibility onto DESI. With that, if they say yes, we're still going to come back to you, and still in December, you're still going to have opportunity to vote again on this. So it's not the final vote on this. You still have 2 months to review all these documents, and at the end of 2 months, and after we work through the MOU, if we still can't come to that agreement, then you have every ability to vote no. But by voting yes or no tonight, you're allowing us to submit it to DESI. It's not final. You're not saying with absolution that we're allowed to go forward with this. You're saying, okay, we understand, let's see how things go for the next step. So really, that's kind of, I think that's a hang-up. And if I was you and the applicant group handed me a 100 and some odd page application and said, you got 2 days to review this and prove it, I would tell them they're out of their mind. But again, you have 2 months to do this. So it's not like this is an overnight decision, but you still have 2 more months.
Thanks, Adam. Go ahead, Mike, keep your hand up first, then Sue, and then Jeannie.
I guess I'd like to start some discussion based on where is our school district going, and what is our elementary school structure is going to look like for FY 2021. And I guess what I'm saying is we've heard possibly of 6th grade move up. We know that pre-K, K at Warwick is not in effect right now, so what does that bring for 1st grade for FY 2021? Now, if we have 2 or 3 kids come in for 1st grade, is it fiscally responsible to hire a teacher and an aide for that classroom, which is probably going to run about $90-something thousand, depending on benefits and insurance and what have you. So, you know, providing the funding is a big piece of this. Also, you know, if 6th grade does ultimately, after some study, does move up to Pioneer next year, because they're at 293 kids right now.
Excuse me, Mike, who is Pioneer?
Pioneer is. So the building is going to be underutilized. Mm-hmm. And we've got classes in the elementary schools that are split. So with if the 6th grade did move up, that would provide some extra movement and free up some classroom spaces. It would also bring up the class size, or the student population in the middle school and high school level to around 357 kids, and would bring our elementary schools, which is at roughly 409 right now, down to 345. So it would balance out the high school, middle school, and our elementary schools. I think looking at 6th grade going up there would be a benefit to the students, because there would be more to offer them. You know, there's a lot of things than just saying, well, we'll just, you know, vote to let the state make the decision and then have it come back to us for final. Where do we want to go with the rest of our district? The rest of our district, you know, the other 3 towns plays a big piece of this. We heard from the lady from the state that said Warwick could keep their 6th grade even though the other 6th grades moved up if it did happen. It really, to me, we're dividing who's getting what, but we're losing control. There's going to be a separate governing board up here, but we're still going to be funding it. Those are the concerns I have. I don't think it would be right to the rest of the district. If we're going to go for conversion charter schools, and let's include Northfield and Bernardston along with Warwick. Let's have 3 conversion schools. Put all the applications in at once. But that's, to keep everything on a fair playing field, we got to keep it fair through the whole district because we're representing the whole district.
Okay, so we have a district agreement that allows for the formation of an advisory committee. So last June, I believe it was, the select board in Warwick formed the advisory committee. So I have been attending meetings since last June with David and Jess, understanding clearly that my role there is not to do the work of the committee, but to be able to advise this committee, that I work for this committee. And this is my first opportunity to speak to this committee in all this time. So I just want to say to this committee how impressed I am by the level of creativity, innovation, and dedication by the committee. Also, what you may not understand is that this is a town that has a history of doing this. Our firefighters built their own fire station. Almost a decade ago, we built our own broadband system. We have a record of taking on big, creative, innovative projects and as a town, making them work. So I have just no concerns about recommending to this committee that for this vote tonight, just give them the go-ahead to have a conversation with the state so we can all learn more about this. It does not commit us to anything. Going forward, I would hope that the committee would be shown the respect of having time to fully discuss things with the school committee so that we can all come to some shared understandings and agreements. But I just want to say how incredibly impressed I am and how proud of our town and how we have moved from fear and disappointment and anger to taking responsibility and innovating. The baseline of this idea is that we will not cost the district more per pupil, that we will take responsibility as a town for educating our children at any level beyond that as a baseline. There are more complicated conversations to have, but thank you.
So Jeannie had her hand
Yeah.
up after Sue.
It's
Jeannie,
okay.
did you have something that you wanted to share?
I
or
did,
ask
but it
about?
couldn't have been very important because it slipped my mind.
Okay, and then I saw David's hand up after that, and then Karen.
And then-
Did you have something you wanted to say?
And then me.
or-
Well, I wanted to reply to Mike's point that, he points out that if Warwick has 1 or 2 kindergarten kids, does it make sense to hire a teacher? That's not our design. That's not what we're proposing to go forward. We're looking at blended learning using modern ways. So we would avoid staffing up for 2 kids. We have a very different approach. So judging this proposal against the only model we've really had, which is combine, regionalize, reformat, maybe join a bigger district, bus our kids further, we're looking at an alternative. And it's an alternative that's like an accordion. It will expand and contract. We were cautioned at our hearing that we should probably be more bold in our numbers than, we're designing for as few as 20 kids, but as many as 80 is in our design. So, we're looking realistically at right now of having low 20s of our kids, and even more than that. This school has the 2nd highest number of choice students in the district, this tiny school. But this is a completely different way forward, and if it works, it could be really significant way out of this morass, because we just have increasing costs, no matter how few students we have under the old model. This is a new model, and this is a model that Warwick as a community is the risk taker. This school committee is not taking a risk. This school, with its board of trustees, will say, we have negotiated this payment from the district to operate our school. If we go underwater like this district has, it won't be the whole district that'll be bailing us out. It'll be Warwick. Think about the advantage of having this kind of attention on the problems of a school. And finally, I want to say I do think we should meet twice a month till we get caught up, but not all night.
Okay. I was one of those school committee members who was able to attend on Monday night, and I would like to thank and recognize the people of Warwick and the time and the care with which they have moved forward on this very important to them and perhaps to us, the whole district, idea. I do have a couple of things I would like them and us to consider as we move forward. And one of them is the budget. It's a big one. It's been our nemesis for the past 4 or 5 years. And I heard the number of $22,000 per pupil cost brought up at the meeting Monday night. And it does not comport at all with what we were shown tonight by Tanya, and which she provided to me a week ago. And it has been stated from Mr. Holloway in one of his letters to us, and from a report in the recorder, that the school per pupil cost would not be 1 cent more than spent on any other elementary student in the district. So I think to compare it to per pupil costs for all the schools combined is not comporting with what they have told us in the past. So I'd like there to be some thought and discussion around that. I would also like to reference an earlier communication from Mr. Holloway that this would not draw from any other district elementary schools, and yet I saw in the prospectus that after present students in the school, priority would be given to students from other elementary schools in the district. So I'm a little bit confused about some of the details, and I really do think we need to have further discussion on these, plus union contract issues. Those are going to be very important coming forward. So that group of people needs to be brought in early as well. I don't think we can say with good conscience that we support all of this unless we know some more about those things.
So I'm gonna, Tanya had requested to speak to something that Karen had said, so go ahead, Tanya.
So based on the sheet that you have in front of you, the average per pupil cost at Northfield and Bernardston combined is $19,207. So just so you guys have that
Right.
figure.
Thanks, Tanya. Mike,
Combined
did you
or
have
per,
I
per
do.
school?
Okay.
No.
What did you say? I'm sorry, I didn't hear you.
Combined or per school?
Combined.
Combined or per school is her question.
So Northfield and Bernardston are our two. So we talked about the average cost amongst the other elementary schools, but we only have 2 other elementary schools right now. So if you take Northfield and Bernardston and average those, it's $19,207 per student.
Thank you. Go ahead, Sharon.
Actually, Karen hit on one of the things I was going to discuss, and that is, there's no guarantee about a cost per pupil with this, and we really won't know until you get into the first year of this 5-year Horace Mann charter school, because things are going to be so fluid in the first year or two that I think you can't really, you almost can't come up with a final budget until you've gotten into the first year. You can come up with what you think it's going to be, but there's always things that you're faced with that you didn't plan on. So I don't think we can ever guarantee the cost per pupil figure right now. And the district is actually taking a little bit of a risk here. And that's part of, I think, what the committee needs to think about. If we vote for or against this, I mean, what kind of a risk is it that the district is going to be taking if we vote for it? I think we need to be thinking about that, and we need to think about how that's going to affect our students in the district. I just feel as though I don't have enough solid information tonight to be able to vote going forward.
One of the other concerns I had was, as we know that Orange is looking at planning to put an addition and renovate their building. And I think, along with other schools in Franklin County, the word innovation is being used everywhere. Everybody is fighting to survive. And school choice is one of those items that's hurting all of us. Sometimes we're getting a little bit more, sometimes we're giving a little more. Orange is, I think, feeling it, pretty good, so I think they're gonna be pushing to improve their school and have their innovative programs to keep their kids. And if that happens, what effect does that have on the school choice numbers coming here? We have to think ahead about the big picture here on what is happening around us with the other schools. There's a lot of competition out there with, other schools, small preschools. And if you're not looking at what else is out there in Franklin County that we're competing against, you really aren't doing your homework. All you have to do is go online and see what the other schools are offering. And there's a lot being offered out there. So creating something that's new and innovative, there's a lot of innovation out there with these other schools. I just am concerned with what could possibly happen with your student enrollment in Warwick in relation to what is going to transpire over to Orange probably in the next 2 years, which would have an effect on Warwick School.
So, thanks, Mike. I also have a concern or a question, a comment, in seeking to understand and appreciating the hard work and the number of hours that have gone into this notion, and really want to seek to understand. So I have educated myself as best as I can based on what I've been given to date. It seems like I may be missing some of the current perspective opportunities, but I have what was presented at the last meeting. And I also have a copy of the PowerPoint from the DESC, so that's what I'm basing my comments on, just to let people know. And also my interest in how to help the district, being both a teacher in the district and a member of the towns. But certainly I'm here tonight representing the bargaining unit. And my concern is for the other schools, that if the cost per pupil is one thing, it's a very complicated number that we get to, but if Warwick is allowed to have the luxury of billing the district for the actual cost per pupil and receiving that money from the district, then I'm concerned for the students and the faculty and the bargaining unit from everybody else, because just for instance, on quick math, I may or may not be doing this correctly, but if we base it on Tanya's numbers and the current enrollment in Bernardston as example, then they would be having a $3 million budget, which is certainly not the case. So it wouldn't be apples for apples,
That's right.
which when you're part of a district,
Should be.
and I understand this is a complicated formula, and it comes from a flawed foundational budget, which is only based on 10,000 per student. And the towns currently kick in 64% against the base maximum. I totally appreciate that the towns are giving and giving and giving, all towns, including Warwick, and their willingness to be innovative is certainly exciting, that they're thinking of things in a new way, and I don't think anyone, including teachers in the district, are interested in squelching that exciting notion. However, we do encourage all stakeholders, especially those at the table tonight, to consider what it means for everyone. And I also, just as a final comment, and maybe not a final comment, but in this run, my understanding is a memorandum of understanding will need to be reached with, and it was uncertain, they weren't able, your notes reflect it, and my memory holds that last time the DESE representative was unable to say, is it just the faculty at Warwick that will be voting on this, or the entire bargaining unit? If it is the faculty at Warwick, based on what we were just given as a district for a directory, that will involve 12 professional staff and 7 support staff. So I'm not sure the support staff union has not been addressed in any of the conversations that I've been a part of or been able to listen to. So my understanding is 30 days after the finalized application is sent, a memorandum of understanding has to be reached with, even though approval doesn't have to be given. So there's lots, and I just wanted everybody in the room to hear it's not just the classroom teachers. There are 12 professional staff, district staff that come through this building. So unless you're innovating in a new and different way, and also the concern of the entire bargaining unit of seniority issues, and if student enrollment is being affected in other schools, what sort of protections or opportunities lie with everyone within the bargaining unit. And if students can't be forced to attend a charter school, so to your point, Mike, if all 3 towns decided to jump on this train, you would be paying other districts to take your children who choose not to go to charter schools, because part of this demonstration was, part of the DES's presentation was that children cannot be forced to go to charter schools.
Yep.
So you would have to offer a standard public school opportunity. So if, in fact, every town did decide to do this, you would be in the market to pay other towns to take your children who choose to go to standard public schools. So those are my current comments.
Go ahead, Mike.
Just to reply to that, I'm not against charter schools. What I'm against is how they're funded. It really is not something I agree with, and to do it, whether it's a conversion school or a Commonwealth school, I don't agree with how the funding numbers line up. I don't agree with a separate governing body for one school, and the school committee doesn't have any control, and they can make decisions on what they want, where another elementary school in the district doesn't have that same opportunity. So you end up having issues in that respect. Also, in regards to fluctuating student numbers, that creates a problem with the staff, where if you're going up and down and you got to have layoffs and you got to transfer teachers from one school to the other, and then that person's getting bumped because of seniority, the whole thing just does not make any sense. Well, that's probably why there isn't any other Horace Mann 2 schools in the state.
David, I saw you have your hand up.
Yes. It was 2 years ago that the idea of a Horace Mann school first got its airing, and the Recorder in July of 2017 editorialized on it. And the fact that was learned then was that the Horace Mann is so fundamentally different from a Commonwealth charter school and how it is funded that I abandoned it. I had promoted it. I was coming at it, Mike, from a perspective I think I share with you, from looking at revenue and trying to cure a revenue problem. We just in Warwick pay our tech school assessment based on some number that was set last spring. And we didn't send that many kids to the school, but we don't get a refund. And nobody called us up and said, hey, why don't you go recruit another kid from Pioneer to go to the tech school? In this instance, don't get hung up on whatever we say the per pupil cost is. We only bring that up because that's what's in the law as the basis for the DESE commissioner imposing a budget on a school district with its Horace Mann charter school if the school committee and the trustees of the school can't get together. The law says the most the charter school can get is the per pupil of the district, minus whatever services the charter school is buying from the district, such as superintendency, perhaps payroll, things to be figured out in a memorandum. There's not a bill sent to the district, hey, we got 3 more kids, 22,000 please, times 3, right away. That's not what happens. The school district does a budget. The Horace Mann is a carve-out that is no more than the per pupil. If Pioneer, by some masterful stroke, is able to educate for $14,400, then this charter school can't get any more than that. We are saying, with our blended approach, with our new approach that's not based on traditional classrooms, which is using online learning and blending and finding a way to get the job done with the funds available, and to do so innovatively. We are not looking at making bigger and bigger districts and busing our kindergarten kids first 10 miles and then 25 and then 50. We're looking at doing it here, doing it a new way, and doing it with available resources. Moreover, we're looking at contributing additional community resources, because we realize that it does cost more to do it small. It may cost more to do it locally, but we have the school and it's going to stay open. And if the district closes the school, we're still going to have this expense. So we've already come part way to meet you. In this proposal, the town's going to take over the occupancy expenses. Like Leiden, if the school's closed, they're going to have the cost of the building. So we're ready to step up.
Okay.
Can I just ask something, David, that you touched upon? You had talked about possibly purchasing services. So regarding using payroll, central office, bargaining, is that something that, as an advisory member to the committee, you can speak to? Has that been discussed at all? Will you be purchasing those services? Will you be purchasing our legal counsel services? Will you be purchasing central office services?
Sped services, probably.
We have an interest in participating with the central office, more like a superintendency union, like Swift River School or Irving Elementary. So to look at us that way. And we're not.
Can you explain that a little bit more?
Yeah, so there's basically 3 models of schools: your city or municipal school, City of Boston.
I mean, how are you going to pay for it, like what she was saying?
It would come out of that per pupil, okay? So if the per pupil is $14,400, we would, in our memorandum with the school committee, negotiate superintendent services for a certain amount of money that would come out of that per
And-
pupil and remain with the district, or be sent to us and we write you a check back, however it makes sense. Those are all things to be worked out. But I will say that, as many wild pitches as I've thrown and suggested as we've looked out of the box, there's a pretty strong current not to change everything at once. So I think we can do payroll cheaper than the district, but I don't think we're gonna try it in year one. We're gonna have enough going on and we're gonna ease into it. But those are all things that need to be worked out in the memorandum. But
And is there
Kristen?
any idea or discussion yet about those? Has there been discussions about how that would be executed, or is there?
among ourselves, yes, there's been no willingness with the district to talk to us about it yet. But yes,
That's not true. I sent an email 2 months ago.
I'm sorry, John, I heard that you did not have permission of the school committee to even talk to us about a memorandum, and I apologize if I'm wrong.
Okay.
Well,
So,
he has
hold
the
on one
right to
second,
speak.
please. John, would you like to speak?
All I'm saying is, I sent an email to the task force, asking, clarifying questions about these things, such as that you brought up. Has this plan been given to PVR Ea and PVASP in the district for their review? Please outline where the savings in revenue would come from. Can you clearly define lists as to what the district would be responsible for? A structured cost comparison for Warwick's FY20 budget to what your model would look like. So I've asked the questions, and you've done a tremendous job, and I know things are still in progress, but I also asked for like a working document when Alyssa Hopkins suggested to me to ask you about the template and the working prospectus and things. So I just don't want to seem like we're portraying like we're not trying to work with you. We're just trying to provide information to you. So that's all. I was just trying to clarify, David. Like,
Thank you.
Yeah, I've been reaching out anyway to try to be helpful. Yeah.
Okay, so.
Kim had a
Lots of
question.
hands.
Kim had.
Go ahead, Kim.
Yeah, so, I just want to start out by saying legal counsel doesn't have an opinion one way or the other. Our job is just to look at everything and advise the school committee of things that we've seen. We got the prospectus, late last night, early this morning, because I happened to be in subcommittee negotiations, and, found out that the school committee received the prospectus, so they sent it to us last night. So we haven't had a lot of time to review, but, Russell did a little reviewing this morning. I was in meetings all day, but he did have 2 points that he just wanted me to, 3 points that he wanted me to clarify on. One is more just a thought, which is that in the prospectus, it talks about the charter school providing transportation to students in Warwick. However, since students aren't required to go to that school, if a student in Warwick chose not to, the district, it seems like, would have to pay to bus that student to the district anyway. And that's just something to think about as far as costs go. That's one of the things that we noticed. And then you might be able to clarify this, but so you talked about payroll, and it seems like the new school would have its own tax ID, but then the district would do payroll. So Tanya and Rick Kingsley could work that out with you guys in an MOA, but just how that would work, is the district reimbursing for payroll or fronting it up, putting the cost up front. So those are all just things that would have to be worked out and thought about moving forward. But then I know something that Russell told me to portray at this meeting is just that, yes, you're voting to move the process forward, but this is an opportunity for the school committee to just, like you've been saying, to discuss, is this something that we want, or is this something that we don't? And so that's just something that, like, you're moving the process forward, and by doing that, you would be saying, this is what we want to do as a district. So that's what your vote really is deciding that we want to put this to the state because this is something that we want to see happen. Again, our office doesn't have an opinion either way. Our job is just to inform the school committee. And so again, in our limited review, that those are the points that we were able to see.
Can we call the question?
Oh, go ahead.
And that's what I've been trying to say regarding, is this what we want? Because the vote of yes is saying that's what we want to do to the state. Even though there's further discussions for MOU, if we vote yes tonight, based on the information we have, I mean, I've got a lot of information, I've done a lot of homework, but I don't know, I've had people call me, other school committee members, ask, we're just getting this information. I mean, as far as I'm concerned, I don't think we've got the information to make the decision on what we want as a committee for the whole district. That's the key, the whole district. Is this what we want to do?
We call the committee.
So I'd like to make a comment about the whole district, and I am in agreement with you. We should be looking at this when we've been talking about this for a long time. We should be looking much further ahead, planning together about how we want things to start proceeding. And we've been playing catch up, right? We've been trying to get out from under the debt, trying to come up with new plans. And we've got John in place, and I really do think a big part of you having that position was that you are such a idea guy, You really have been, I think, on the forefront of saying, let's try these things, let's do these things. When you give us your reports, it's really about, we want to bring new and creative ideas, and we want to give it to everyone in the district, right? So it's not about just saying we want this only to be in Warwick. From my perspective, I don't see that that's what is happening. Part of what I'm seeing that is happening here, and part of what I read in that charter, there's so much, right, is that these ideas are getting generated, like you have a generation place for some different ideas to kind of have a lab to start working with, and that there is part of the charter that says you're going to take those ideas into your district. They're going to get funneled out. They're going to be brought to all of the kids in this district, the things that work, the things that seem like they're going to help us financially, educationally, that are going to help our teachers possibly be able to do a better job, to have us be able to have staffing that will work for this small number of kids that we have. It's very expensive. And it's a 5-year plan, and there's financial incentives to do that can help be a lab, be a place where we can start to grow some of these ideas. And I feel like, John, with you in place, this is like all the conversations that we have. It's all of these great ideas, and how do we get it? And we have very limited time as us individuals at this. What we have is a group of people who are very creative and dedicated and volunteering their time and are willing to think about all of what Renee is saying. Any of those barriers, there is a group of people who are willing to figure out if there is a way through. I am hoping that we say, let's do that, right? Let's see if there's ways through these barriers. This was where I feel like we're sitting with this vote is, indeed, there are things that could not work. Indeed, there are things that will not work with how we are structured now, and indeed, we need new ideas. It could not work, right? Most of that risk is sitting with Warwick. I think it's a pretty amazing thing. It's a possibility for these to have a place to work on some things that might change how we're moving through. Like, we are still in a $780,000 deficit down the road because we have steps, we have retirements, we have all the things that are still going to be in place in 5 years. The changes that we need are really big.
So I just want to say, one, thank you very much for everybody who's been involved in this process, because it has been very, very time consuming, and you have been committed to this the whole time, and thank you for sharing all of the information with us. I have a couple concerns, and I have a couple non-concerns. I think it's great that everybody is trying to think outside the box, be innovative, incorporate new ideas, but my concerns are that when questions are posed, the answer is, well, that's what we will work out in the MOU. And I think for myself, if we were able to have those concrete answers as to what the idea is, how certain things will function that are quite crucial to the operation of the district and the operation of this potential charter school, I would be feeling more comfortable about next steps. There's a lot of important questions that the answer is, well, we have to work that out in the MOU. And I would like to hear more concrete answers as to what the intention is on what you're gonna, like I had posed to David in those questions. I don't know if that makes sense, but go ahead, David.
Well, I guess I can say generally that we do want to move away from the outrageously high overhead of this district has about the highest central office cost per pupil, and it's one of the places that we see a way. So we're not going to, none of us are going to honestly say that you know, it's not on the table to move away from that. And we do, like you, recognize that unless the district takes steps, that it's going to amount to a cost shift. We, for our 5% of the budget that's elementary, may move away from, but if you don't make changes at the district level in terms of, and Gil-Montague is the only district in the state with higher per pupil costs for central office. I mean, and it's well sub $1,000 all across the state, and we're second highest in the state. So we do see low-hanging fruit over time, but we're not going to try to take on everything at once either.
And that I think is quite understandable. If this is something that is going to be trial and error over 5 years, that's a concern for me, because we still have to think about the rest of the district and how that trial and error is going to affect everyone, and even to include the charter school.
Can we call the question, or
I'm sorry?
can we call the?
Okay, so
There's no motion.
there's no motion, and I want to be respectful to all discussions, and Jeannie, but I do want to make a point of the time.
Getting some information from the chair of the committee.
Could you please hold on 1 second, please? We do have committee members that are asking questions, okay?
My big concern, Renee touched upon, is, has anyone from Warwick spoke to the Mass Teachers Association how this is going to work out with the teacher's contract? Having been involved in in negotiations for the last 5 years, this is a crucial part of the district, and I see this as a huge hurdle, probably one of your biggest hurdles to deal with, and I need more concrete answers from you people about the whole teacher and the other staff working out the contractual issues. And how do the teachers that are in the contract, in the negotiation contract, or not negotiation, but in the bargaining unit, feel about all of this? Have you approached the general teachers?
Did you want to answer that question?
Yeah,
Or Tom?
or-
Or
I've got
David?
a couple of real quick things I think I can surmise in one thing. There is a lot of work left to do. There's a lot of conversations left to have. And it's a little bit of a step-by-step, a little bit as we're continuing to update everybody. Yes, the teachers union thing is a very important part of this. We're still working with DESE to firm up that question of who exactly is supposed to be voting members. And we're going to work that out. We've been spending a lot of time on the perspective and updating all of it. In terms of the answers we gave to vagueness to MOU, I think that's a big thing. A lot of the questions that have been posed, they could be very, very easily answered. Jonathan and I and a few others sat down at the table and said, what are your concerns? And we had that back and forth dialogue. And I think we will. I know we will in order for us to work. But that has to happen. It can't be like, it's very wonky and very clunky to have questions asked one way, not necessarily one way, but it is far easier to have a conversation face to face, and then you can talk about those things, and you know how the other person is thinking, and you understand. That's what we need to do, and we can work on all of this, and we understand these questions are there, and we want to work on it, but we cannot do any of that unless we get a yes.
So I just want to ask a clarifying question. because I'm hearing that the MOU is between
Mhm.
the school and the superintendent. And I clearly recall Alyssa saying that it is between the school committee and the Warwick prospectus applicant.
Mhm.
Yeah, you're
So it is
correct.
not, so those conversations around the MOU need to include Jonathan, but they have to happen at a larger level because it is the school committee that is going to be developing the MOU. John is one piece of this larger puzzle.
Mhm.
So I want to make sure that we're all understanding that clearly, that it is not John, it is the school committee that will be developing the MOU in collaboration. So having a meeting with John and the two of you, while you can triage a lot of his questions, it really needs to happen
With
with
everybody.
all of us, so. Okay, go ahead, Mike, and I do want to be mindful of the time, we do have some other agenda items that we do need to attend to. We've discussed long meetings before, so I'd like to sort of wrap up the discussion if there are no other topics to be discussed on this.
I think after hearing my fellow committee members speak and the Warwick Education Task Force, there's a lot of unanswered questions to be able to move forward to presenting this to the state as something we want to do. We don't even know where we're at. How can we tell them this is what we want to do?
So just as a final thought, because I think it answers some questions potentially, we did have a non-binding question. We had elections this week in our bargaining unit. And so we did put a non-binding question on, based on having people have access to, again, what I had access to based on attendance at the last meeting, which was the prospectus that was shared, and the DESC PowerPoint. And so we put it out, and we weren't even sure how to form the question, again, because this is uncharted territory. Even our MTA rep said that it hasn't been done in the state before, so there isn't really a stance from other MTA, because this is uncharted territory. So we said, would you support having Warwick's Horace Mann to conversion school in our bargaining unit? Because we didn't even know what we can even ask. So of the people that voted, yes, 22 votes, no, 31, and 12 abstained because they just felt like they, as you are feeling, didn't have enough information. So just to let you know, we just took a pulse. It was non-binding, but it was no 31, yes 22.
That's helpful.
Just to, again,
was the abstention count?
12.
12.
So, go ahead, Jess.
I'm wondering if people feel like we need to have a meeting together.
Well, one of the things that I was thinking is, now that we have all of the documentation, and I understand that you have some bits and pieces that still have to be worked out, but the majority of the documentation has been delivered to the school committee. There's lots of it. And if people are feeling now with all of that, if that idea would like to be moved forward.
Yeah.
What idea?
What's your timeline? I mean, those things keep getting moved. Do we
We
have
need to
time?
have it submitted by
November 1st.
November 1st at the absolute latest.
Okay,
If
so
we're
that
not-
gives us 2 weeks, basically 2 weeks.
I don't want to extend it.
3. My suggestion would be to have a meeting in, I don't know where, but someplace that we could involve their task force and our school committee so we can work together. I think that has to happen.
I think that we've been down this road before, and we extended it before. And I'm not sure that they can gather the documents between now and the time of our next meeting, which would be probably in a week. All that documentation is not going to be able to be gathered and presented. They've done a ton of work right now. If you could, well, it hasn't been done so far, so that's
So I
where
see
my concern is.
Jess, and then I see Karen.
I'd like to make a motion that we set a date to meet with the Warwick Education Force to discuss the Horace Mann 2. conversion school proposal.
I second.
Discussion? Go ahead.
Here's what I wanted to say. I read every page, and I did it in the less than 2 days you gave us to do that. I would simply want to say we need to give this a chance. I think we need to respect the deadline and have a meeting in a week. And I also would like to respectfully request that we not get 90 pages or whatever it is with only 48 hours to go. I am retired. I still had to put the brakes on some other things I planned to do so that I could read all of that and give it the respect it deserves. So I would urge, if we do this meeting in a week, which I think we should, that you give us more than 48 hours to give us additional information. Thank you.
The other thing that, and Kim, maybe you can speak to this, I think it's critical that we also have whomever is going to be a representative of the law office present, so they can utilize that opportunity to ask for clarifying questions. I know Russell has been the one that's been receiving the documents, and he's developed a series of questions that, that he has, from reviewing what has been sent to him. So I think that's really important, and I'm not sure where Rick Kingsley falls into that either.
Yeah, I personally can't speak to Russell's schedule, but I think that he is the one who is primarily working with you, so I don't know if there's a way to coordinate that, or even if you schedule a meeting, I can let him know when it is, and if I have to cover something else for him that I can actually cover, I would. With respect to Rick Kingsley, even today I asked Russell what his involvement has been. Is he going to be at this meeting? And I know he's just been receiving the documents, but I don't think it hurts to involve him and just let him know when the date will be and if he can attend, if that's something he can do.
Because he also has to make the recommendation as far as the financial component goes to the commissioner, given we are in oversight. Go ahead, Sharon.
If we can throw out a couple of dates, are we going to vote on?
We have a vote on the floor.
Right. Yeah.
Yep, so there's a motion, it has been seconded to schedule a meeting. And can you just repeat the motion, please?
The motion is to set a date to meet with the Warwick Community Education Task Force to discuss the proposal.
So I know we have some subcommittee meetings scheduled, and some school events happening, so.
What school events?
Yep, so is there any other discussion on the motion? Good.
Can I amend the motion to include and vote on the Horace Mann proposal, possible vote? If we have set the date.
Or for the day of the meeting?
For the day of the meeting. Do I need to do that? Or that's what?
To get it on the agenda, you probably do.
Well, if you want to get it by.
Can I amend that to say, to include a possible vote on the Horace Mann 2 school? Conversion school.
To discuss and possibly vote on.
Do we need to put anything in this that it will be posted and it will occur?
All meetings should be.
Well, that's not our experience.
Well, if they have the right information, they post it.
Hold on 1 second, please. The concern has been noted. Let's focus on this motion that has been presented in the second. Is there any other discussion as it pertains to the motion itself, not the agenda? Go ahead.
I'm just being mindful of this process again. If for some reason this does not happen, that it would be happening in time for this to go through if it is so voted.
I think the message is very clear that it has to happen, which it will if the vote.
Thank you.
If it is voted in that direction. Okay? All in favor?
So it took us how long to come to the conclusion that we probably should have an hour ago?
Yeah, right.
Okay. All set, Ian? Okay, it is a unanimous. And so now to pick the date.
Yes.
Okay.
I need more than
Everybody
this.
on there.
Yeah, there's,
We can't afford to
Oh,
do
wait.
it.
But our
We
motion is
have to
for a
do
week.
it within a week.
Oh, I don't have one, yeah.
why?
Well, they have a number, November 1st.
But I don't have the, all the school stuff.
Yeah, hold on.
Hold on 1 second. If I could have the audience quiet, please, because we need to have this discussion. David, did you have something you wanted to say?
I do.
No?
Monday.
I do.
Sharon?
If we could have the meeting on, what about October 23rd?
I can't be there. I can't be there.
Wednesday,
22nd.
Where are we gonna have the meeting?
The 22nd?
not here.
So, what is the 22nd look like for everyone?
I have
Tuesday,
Kiwanis.
22nd.
I can,
Great.
if I have,
Because if we are going to vote, remember, we will need a quorum.
Yes, I can be here.
Okay, does everybody hear that?
Which date?
So the 22nd.
I don't think she heard you, Jim.
At PVRS.
No, Jim.
Okay, so
Are
Jim
you gonna
can't
be
do
there?
it.
Let's raise our hand.
Who can do the 22nd?
It's about as close as you're
And I
gonna
don't know
get.
about Sue, she went to go get her calendar, it's my understanding.
She'll be there.
Honest to
That's
God.
a quorum, that's 9 people, so it's a quorum.
You missed it, so we voted.
Overwrite whatever you have.
Yeah, yeah.
Sue, are you available the 22nd?
I'm getting there.
see, if you just had a calendar you opened up to, you wouldn't have to go through all those steps. I don't use my phone for it.
No,
I think I left my phone.
no.
Everybody but Jim.
Friday, the 25th?
Yeah, do you know,
I can do it any day.
No more Thursdays.
months ago, I still haven't hooked it up to the keyboard. I thought it was so
So
nice,
this is
isn't it?
what I would say, the 22nd, with confirmation that legal counsel can be there, because we do need him a part of that.
Okay.
Go ahead, Sharon.
Then if he can't be there, he or she, can we,
What about the 21st?
the 29th
What
or
about
the,
the
or the 30th?
I
What
can
about
do
the
the 22nd, but I would be late.
What about the 24th, which?
No.
Stay to the 22nd. If Jim
Let's
can
stay
make
the
it, be late.
22nd, and,
So I could be there by 8.
okay.
21.
okay.
Yeah, we're gonna have a lot of discussion.
We'll probably still be there.
I'll let Karen vote.
But nobody's gonna
These are backup. Council
I'm
can't
not
come.
sure you like
We
it.
don't know. Yeah, Pioneer, Kristen?
What about,
Kristen?
so in an effort to have a backup date, if we could have all the discussion, please, in an effort to have a backup date in the event that Russell cannot be there, what is people's availability on the 21st?
Yes.
Is that Monday?
So please raise your hand if you can make it on the 21st as a
It's a
backup date.
Monday.
How about raise your hand if you can't make it?
Oh,
It might be easier to count.
You can't.
No, okay,
No, it's too many.
It's out.
Yeah.
all right,
Well, am I the only one that can't make it on the 23rd?
other than the
18.
28th.
How about the 18th?
No.
That's a Friday.
So
Then you guys are busy.
what about the 28th, which is a Monday?
It's too close.
Yeah.
Give them time. Give them a few days.
Yeah, 22nd.
That's
22nd.
So, it's not ideal, the 20th as a backup date, but, you know, the only caveat to that would be if there was something that needed to be changed, that would be an issue.
What's the,
20?
So let's.
Can we talk about the 23rd again?
The 23rd, did anybody say?
what,
Oh,
the
okay.
17th is out? It's a week from today.
I already have a meeting scheduled for that night, but I'm one person of,
I have a meeting scheduled.
I'm at the doctor's.
16th, I can.
16th is policy.
16th is our.
We have a policy at
Stay with the
5:30.
22nd. 22nd.
If the 22nd, we'll cross our fingers. Can you just let Russell know, please, the 22nd?
Yeah, what time?
Our meetings typically start at 7
Can we
p.m.
do it at 6:30?
Move it to 5.
Okay, I guess
Move it to
7.
5.
I guess I'm outvoted, 7.
Can you guys do 22nd?
People do 6.
I can do
I
six.
can do
I could
6.
do 5, I can't do
6.
6.
I can do
I can do 5.
I can do 5:30.
My husband doesn't get home till 6:15.
Okay.
So,
So,
7.
7 o'clock
I have a
is
sitter, like,
on the 22nd, where? At
Pioneer.
Pioneer.
I love coming out to Warwick, but in the daylight.
Yeah.
I have never been here in the daylight.
When I was a visiting,
Focused on that?
this is, that,
Would
The
it be
answer is-
other items?
No,
I think, as we posted for the public hearing, it would be a joint, my thought from hearing everybody is that this will be a joint meeting of the school committee and of the Warwick Ed Task Force to discuss the documents that have been sent, ask follow-up questions, and sort of like a work bee
and possible
of
vote.
documentation.
Kristen,
Excuse me.
the Warwick Education Task Force isn't the applying body. The Board of Selectmen is.
Okay, so I apologize, I'm using that term not correctly.
So they need to be meeting in here too.
So is the Board of Selectmen for Warwick available to meet? Would they be available that evening to meet at Pioneer at 7
It will,
p.m.?
yes.
Okay, so all bodies that matter in this process are available?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, except you.
So,
Can I just be sure that we have the, Mr. Hollowell?
Yes,
Hello.
Sharon.
Just be sure that the questions answered are, to please spell out the transportation. These were items that were of concern of our council. And a little more clarity on who's going to be handling your payroll and future, if you have any more clarity on those issues.
shared.
Also, I think my other question that I had, and maybe this can be answered, is the Chapter 70,
Yeah.
how that's gonna work, who's gonna receive that?
Yes. And then we had some ideas. Maybe the
So, if there are questions among the committee members, is there an avenue to funnel them to us in an appropriate manner so that we can know those ahead of time so we can start working on it, in addition to what Sharon.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So I think it would be important that if everyone has questions, if you could put them in an email format, send them to myself and John, and we can
Funnel them to them.
We can't send them directly to them. We have their email
I'm asking-
addresses
I'm
just by the fact of the
Fine.
information they've sent us.
What I would ask is if that's what's gonna happen, then you include John and myself,
Yep.
CC.
okay?
Okay. Do you want
Yeah,
a
okay,
deadline
okay.
for the questions so that you have time to prepare?
We'll do it before October 21st.
Give you 48 hours. Just kidding.
48 hours would be great.
Just kidding.
Okay.
Pat?
I was wondering if we meet on the 22nd, if you're going to give us any new documentation, if you can get that to us by the 17th, and we in turn could get questions to you by the 17th.
Yep.
That would only make fair, and then they've got the weekend to read if you have
Oh,
other
shit,
stuff.
okay, nothing else.
And we have the weekend to do that. Does that make sense?
Yes, I have a question. We have a few sections that have just been completed since we sent you this thing. You want me to send you piecemeal, or do you want to wait and get?
I think it would be better if you sent it piece by piece, that way once it comes through, people have the opportunity to review it as it comes.
Okay.
That way it's not such a large document to review at once.
These new pieces, will they be completed by the 17th?
Yes, everything, we can complete everything by the 17th.
I guess I would rather get
go
it
to
all
sleep?
together.
We can do both.
Okay, I'm trying to make less work
Yeah,
for
send
you.
them out piecemeal so that folks can read them, but then put it together in an organized fashion too.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'd like to keep us moving on the agenda if there's nothing else. We've set the date, we talked about the date for questions, how we're gonna funnel the information. Next is the connect with the accounts. Tanya, would you like to talk about that, please?
Yeah, I just want to answer Pat's question that she had about the 1800 real quick for the maintenance building that I needed to pull up. So out of that was budgeted for these boosters and waste removal. it, but we think there's a final bill. $800 was for the final pumping at the school, and the other $27.50 was for our fire alarm service for the month of August. So that additional $653.86 ends up being left and not used. We would then have the ability to transfer to use it to pay something else later in the year.
Thank you.
So, to the student activity vote, this is something that I don't think any member on the school committee currently active has ever actually done, and is one of the reasons we've been non-compliant with student activity law for quite some time. Annually, the school committee is supposed to vote every student activity fund that the district holds. So in front of you, you have a list of student activity funds that includes all of the high school funds, clubs, etc., and a list of the elementary schools. The only sub-ledger that each elementary school has that's kept outside of their general student activity fund per se is a 6th grade class fund, and that is kept and tracked by the 6th grade teacher as the advisor for that. Does anybody have any questions about any of the clubs on this list?
I just have a quick question, and I don't know if
Go ahead.
it makes sense, but I see girls, I'm sorry, I see boys volleyball and golf team listed on there, and I know currently there are not those participating things.
Our new student activity policy states that if a fund is not active in 3 years, it will be removed from this list. We do have a couple that are actually being closed since this list was created through collaboration that I've had with Cheryl Baker in assessing those. And there is one missing off of here, Fund 10, which is the general fund, needs to be added to this list, which is basically where all the funds for interest or any miscellaneous student activity funds that aren't specified for an activity or club go to. And then under our new student policy, those are up to the discretion of the principal to subsidize field trips, have school-wide, extracurricular activities, etc. So once an account is not used for 3 years, it will then become inactive, and any funds left in it are moved to the general student activity fund for that school.
Okay, so does this imply that there is funding for boys volleyball and a golf team, or is that just something that's on the list?
So any of these student activity funds, if they were specific for a sport, they were done for a specific purpose, and if there are funds left, the athletic director then confers with the team, because it's the team treasurer and advisors that make the decision on how those funds are spent, not the athletic director.
So,
Yeah,
It really didn't answer
so
the
right
question.
now, so I think I can answer that.
Okay.
So, because I've had this conversation with Tanya. So, these are not, accounts that are funded by the school. These are student activity accounts that these clubs or organizations generate these funds through their own fundraising efforts. And they've been on the list, even though we don't have those two sports active, they still had a fund created for when they were.
did, yeah, okay, that makes
So,
sense, yep.
in the event that we wanted to, or we were able to get a golf team again, or a boys volleyball team, those funds are there, and
Okay, thank you, yep,
Correct.
thank you.
This has nothing to do with our general fund budget. These are the accounts that each individual school is allowed to have to fund co-curricular activities under the student activity Chapter 77 law and under the new student activity policy that we just implemented.
Okay.
But again, this vote is supposed to be actually taken annually, so this coming year, we will actually take it in our June meeting for the upcoming school year so that we're in compliance. But this has been something we've adopted on our student activity audit every 3 years as far as I know.
Okay.
We need to vote these to be able to essentially utilize them.
Is there, any further discussion or question?
I'll make a motion to approve these as printed.
Okay.
With the addition of funds
Second.
as the general fund
The general fund, which I would
on this
assume
list.
is by the Cheryl Baker. Is that right, Tanya?
I'm sorry. I didn't
Who's the
hear her
advisor?
question.
The advisor would be Cheryl Baker.
For the general fund, it's actually the principal,
Okay.
because use of those funds is up to his discretion as long as it complies with the student activity policy, MGL.
Is there a second on the motion?
Yeah,
Sharon, okay, discussion?
No.
All in favor?
know what the general fund is.
All in favor? If we can keep our hands up, please. Annie, are you all set?
I got
Okay.
and David not voting.
All right, opposed? Abstentions? Okay, that's all set. And then, do you wanna talk about the Greenfield, Savings Bank corporate resolution, please?
Yes, so you have a document in front of you, which is the actual vote that the school committee needs to take, such and such on this date. The school committee of the Pioneer Valley Regional School District accepts the corporate resolution here. And Greenfield Savings Bank has asked us to prepare this document, and it's something new that
It's not Greenfield Savings.
that the school committee actually has to take a vote on.
It says Greenfield
Signers
Co-op,
are what
but that's
positions
two distinct,
are
different
deemed
banks.
signers and have access to certain accounts at each school. So I put this list of the treasurer. And these are the positions that have access or are signers on specific accounts within the school. So this has to be deemed and laid out because we're in the process of changing signers on a bunch of the accounts with having new administration and administrative assistants in place, as well as a new assistant treasurer, which is our admin assistant to the superintendent and the school committee. So in order for them to update all of our signers on our account, they need this document voted by the school committee in order to have it on file.
Okay.
Oh, just to clarify for Jeannie, it's Greenfield Cooperative Bank.
No, it isn't, it's Greenfield Savings Bank.
No.
No, I'm sorry, it's Greenfield Co-op.
I apologize.
All right. So,
I am tired.
all right,
I
is
am
there,
tired. I've been dealing with the
Is there a
Department of Public
motion on the
Health too
floor?
much.
Yes.
Second.
any discussion?
Jeannie needs to be
All in
clarified.
favor?
Thank you, guys.
Any opposition? None? Okay, that takes care of that.
Hey, I'm doing better than the Department of Public Health, let me tell you. That right hand doesn't know what the left hand is doing there.
All right, the next regularly scheduled, school committee meeting will be November 14th, 2019, 7
However-
p.m. at Northfield Elementary.
Our special meeting is
And we have a special meeting at,
22nd,
thank you.
PVRS. Be there or be
Hold on 1 second, please. Pat has something to say.
I've been talking to Glenn Kuchar, and as you probably have known, you get a lot of information about a conference going on in Hyannis in about 3 weeks. He has said that if there is any member of this committee that would like to go, that he might be able to find funding for us to attend. But I haven't called him back because I wasn't sure that anybody cared about going. And I don't know if they would do the whole funding or if they do part of it. I really haven't explored it. If anybody is interested, I see Karen raising her hand.
I might be if I can find a baby for you.
It would be, it's
Your
Thursday,
husband doesn't
Friday,
need a
Saturday.
babysitter.
So I'll check him out and see, who else would like to, okay, so let me just write down Karen and Kristen and Sharon.
Pat, can you see the numbers of those dates again?
6, 7, 8, I think it is. It's Friday, Saturday, it's Thursday, Friday, Saturday.
The first is a Friday, I know that.
It is.
November.
It is 7, 8, 9, November. So who is it? Sharon,
Karen.
and Kristen, and Karen, and who else had their hands raised? Maybe that was all.
Want to go?
I make a motion that we adjourn.
Just second.
I make a motion that we all go.
All in favor?
Yeah.
Aye. Thank you, everyone. Have a great evening. Thanks, Tanya. Take care.
Follow somebody up here.
Or,